The two brothers, Benny more of a younger, dumber one, exchanged a few brief words before driving to South Cove Pier. It was a small, remote harbor abandoned 20 years ago, now only home to a few private fishing boats. Usually deserted, it occasionally attracted smugglers, human traffickers, and other criminals under the cover of night. Ethan Vance sat on a dilapidated fishing boat, a cigarette dangling from his lips, its tip glowing intermittently, painting a stark image against the cold, dark water. Time ticked by. Around 1 in the morning, the G-Wagon sped onto the scene, parking by the water's edge. Finn got out first, walked around to the passenger side, opened the door, and yanked the figure inside out by the hair, dragging them unceremoniously toward the boat. Benny trailed behind, muttering, married for years and still acts like a damn psycho like a ghoul. Once aboard, Finn released his grip, looked at Ethan, his face impassive, and simply nodded. Boss. Ethan gave Finn a light punch on the chest. We'll talk about your situation later. Benny lights. Benny knew this old tub. He fumbled his way into the cabin and switched on the dim overhead light. The figure Finn had thrown onto the deck hadn't moved. Now, with the light on, she slowly looked up at Ethan, eyes filled with despair and terror. This was Marcus Chun, in his elaborate female disguise that had fooled everyone for years. I was worried he'd make a scene, Finn said, his voice flat. Gave him a sedative. Should be able to talk now. Ethan sat back down on a wooden crate, his gaze cold as he stared at Marcus. After a moment of silence, he asked, Don't you have anything to say to me? Marcus Chun. Hearing his real name, Benny froze, his jaw practically on the deck. The fight drained out of Marcus. He let out a wretched laugh. Perhaps the sedative was still potent. His voice was weak, his words slurred. Ethan Vance. How did you know that I wasn't dead? Ethan blinked, his expression detached. 10 years ago, the night my mother had her accident, I was kidnapped too. Woke up on a boat. They held me there for a month. Every day, I heard them searching for you. A whole month, and they couldn't find you. So, I figured you'd found a very safe place to hide. You really went to a lot of trouble to find me, didn't you? Ethan pulled out his pack of cigarettes, stuck one in his mouth. Talk. 10 years ago, June 17th. What happened that night? Marcus closed his eyes, took a deep breath. Fine. I give up. Ethan Vance, I know all that kindness you show my brother and sister was an act. You Vance Cess, you're all cold-blooded animals. I can tell you what happened back then, but you have to promise me. You'll leave Tina alone. Ethan nodded. I'm not low enough to go after an innocent woman. Besides, I owe Kevin. I wouldn't hurt Tina. In fact, I'll make things right for her. Marcus looked skeptical. You promise? Talk, Ethan commanded. Marcus was silent for a long moment. Then, bracing his hands on the deck, he struggled to sit up, gasping for breath before he began. That night, your mother was working late. I was driving her home. We passed South Cove Pier. Right here. Suddenly, a car forced us off the road. At the same time, another car slammed into us, flipping ours over. I was dazed. Saw 4 or 5 men surrounding us. They dragged me and your mother out of the car. They had a gun on me. I was on the ground, head covered. Your mother. They took her onto a yacht. I was too far away. Couldn't hear clearly what they were saying. Just vaguely heard a man on the yacht talking about a deal, telling your mother to hand something over. Said he'd pay a lot of money. What did he look like? Ethan pressed, his brow furrowed. And what did he want from her? Marcus shook his head. It was too dark, I couldn't see his face. But from his voice, he sounded like he was in his 40s or 50s. As for what he wanted, I don't know. Ethan's mind raced. Keep talking. What happened next? Even after all these years, Marcus was clearly still terrified. Your mother refused the deal. The man on the yacht waved at the Audi that had forced us off the road. Then, one of the thugs opened the trunk and pulled out a huge suitcase. It was full of US dollars and some gold bars. But your mother didn't budge. She started cursing him out. Then they started hitting her for 3 or 4 minutes until she couldn't even stand. After that, the man ordered his guys to kill me. He was also yelling about kidnapping you. Ethan's fists clenched involuntarily, a flicker of moisture in his eyes. How did you escape? Marcus swallowed hard. They had a gun to my head. I was terrified, but then I thought, I'm dead either way. So I fought back. Just as the guy was about to shoot me, I tackled him, grabbed his gun, and just started firing wildly at the other thugs. While they were ducking for cover, I jumped into that Audi and drove off. I'm not much for anything else, but driving is my passion, my profession. I lost them pretty quickly and hid in a safe place. Ethan's voice was icy. I don't get it. If you escaped, why didn't you call the police? Why go into hiding? Change your entire identity? I thought about calling the cops. Marcus gritted his teeth. But I found another case in the back seat of the Audi I drove off in. I opened it. It was full of money. All US dollars. For million, at least. So, you took the money and ran? Ethan said, his voice thick with anger. Heh. Marcus gave a bitter laugh. You rich pricks, you don't care about money. But me? A driver making $5 grand a month? I wouldn't make that much in several lifetimes. I just lost my head. Thought it was God looking out for me, giving me a way out, and a fortune. You dare to touch that money? Ethan's jaw tightened. You've got some nerve. What then? Where did you go with the money? Marcus seemed to drift off for a moment. At first, I want to go to Korea. I had money. I could get plastic surgery, change my name, live it up. But back then, I could only find a black market boat to Thailand. So, I figure I'd go to Thailand first, then make my way to Korea. But maybe it was karma. Some Thai guys targeted me. They drugged me, robbed me, and they turned me into this. Forced me to keep making money for them. It wasn't until 2 years ago, when the Thai police raided their operation, that I finally got free. I regret it so much. Marcus's eyes were red. But regret doesn't change anything. After the police rescued me, I was like a lost soul, just wandering around Thailand for a while. Then I thought, well, I look like this now. Who's going to recognize me? And it had been so long. Surely no one was still looking into it, right? So I came back. But when I saw Kevin, he told me you've been asking about me. I know how the Vance family operates. If you found me, Kevin and Tina would get dragged into it. To be safe, I was planning to flee the country again. But then, Kevin told me Mr. Peterson had cancer, didn't have long to live. The old man raised us 3 by scavenging, through so much hardship. No matter what, I had to be there for his end. After he passed, I'd go on the run again. So, you and Kevin cooked up this plan to pretend to be married? Ethan took a deep breath. I should have figured it out sooner. After Kevin married you, every time I went to his grill and mentioned you, his eyes would dart away. Because you told him who I really was. Marcus Chun. I never, ever imagined you'd become a woman. I deserve whatever I get, Ethan Vance. I wronged you. I deserve to die. But Tina doesn't know anything. She really doesn't. You have to promise me you won't hurt her. Ethan's anger flared. If I looked like that, I wouldn't want her to recognize me either. Think carefully. Was there anyone at the scene who left a particular impression on you? Anyone whose face you saw clearly? In the car you drove off in, do you remember the license plate? Marcus thought hard, then said dully, Don't remember the plate. Oh wait, the guy who had the gun on me, I saw a tattoo on his wrist. I recognized it because I'd thought about getting something similar before. It was Russian. Das Vidania. He gestured the length on his own wrist. About 4 inches long. And there was a letter after it. L. His accent. It was a Port Sterling local accent. With your family's influence in Port Sterling, I don't think it would be hard to find him. Ethan processed this. Anything else? Nothing else. Didn't see much else clearly. Marcus racked his brain, then paused. Your mother was wearing flats that night. The man on the yacht was a head taller than her, average build, and he also had a local Port Sterling accent. That's all. Ethan fell silent, mulling over the information. Marcus watched him, terrified, his gaze shifting between Ethan, Finn, and Benny. Ethan Vance, I've told you everything. I know you brought me here to kill me. But, could you wait a few more months? I want to see Mr. Peterson off. Don't worry, I won't run. Really? Ethan blinked, his voice cold. Actually, I never planned to kill you. But you killed Kevin Shun. How do we settle that score? Benny's brain felt like it was about to short-circuit, a look of utter confusion on his face. Tears streamed down Marcus's face. He sobbed. I just lost it. I really don't understand why he would choose to help you, an outsider, and betray me. From the moment he found out about the connection between you and me, he urged me to come clean to you, said you definitely want to know the truth about your mother. But how could I dare? But I never expected. Yesterday, he went behind my back and had Tina contact you. If Tina hadn't accidentally told me, when I found out, I sent Tina away and went to the hospital room to confront Kevin. I also wanted to try and persuade him not to say anything, but he just closed his eyes, wouldn't even look at me. I was so angry and scared. I don't know what I was thinking, but I suddenly remember the doctor saying he'd be paralyzed for life. I thought he wouldn't want to live like that, being a burden to Tina. Plus, he betrayed me. In a fit of anger, I just turned off the machine that was keeping him alive. Actually, I regretted it after a minute and quickly turned it back on, but it was too late. Ethan's voice was frigid. You used me to help Tina deal with those loan shark bastards. Even when you were planning to run, you wanted to use me to get rid of Leo Bishop's crew for Tina. Marcus, you're smart enough, just never for the right reasons. You could even kill your own brother. Tell me, do you deserve to live? I don't. I'm not human. Marcus wailed. I just beg you, give me a few more months. Ethan tilted his head back, staring at the inky black sky, letting the razor-sharp sea breeze whip across his face and neck. His expression was dark and complex. After a moment, he looked down at Marcus. Go, fulfill your duty. After you've seen your grandfather off, I'll send you on your way. Marcus nodded gratefully. Thank you, Ethan Vance. Whether you believe me or not, right now, I'm living a life worse than death. Don't worry after Mr. Peterson is gone. I'll end it myself. I won't dirty your hands. Ethan said nothing more and stepped off the fishing boat. Finn followed, closely behind. They walked some distance before realizing Benny hadn't caught up. Turning back, they saw the big dummy standing beside Marcus, scratching his head, a look of intense curiosity on his face. Hey, can you let me, check out how you did that? Your, chest is pretty big. Ethan. Finn silently clutched the cross around his neck, his face expressionless. After leaving South Cove Pier, the three of them picked up Jax, who had been helping Tina Chun with Kevin's funeral arrangements. They headed towards Emerald Lake Estates. On the way, Ethan messaged the information Marcus had provided to Milo, telling him to start investigating. Milo replied, I want to see Finn. Ethan, later. Your cover can't be blown right now. Don't risk it. Benny, who was driving, piped up excitedly. Wonder if that Lily girl is asleep yet? Hey, boss, how about I call her and have her whip up some snacks? We gotta welcome Finn properly, right? Ethan paused, then a glint appeared in his eyes. Don't bother her. He looked at Finn. Brother, I need you to do me another favor. About half an hour later, the sprawling villa at Emerald Lake Estates was pitch black. Lily was sound asleep in her bedroom when she suddenly heard faint footsteps in the living room. Her eyes snapped open. She sat up, staring silently at the crack of light under her door. For a long time, no lights came on. If Benny and Jax were back, their footsteps wouldn't be deliberately so light, and they definitely wouldn't leave the lights off. A burglar? Lily frowned. She slowly got out of bed, tiptoed to the door, and pressed her ear against it. The footsteps in the living room became clearer. Tap, tap, tap. Creak. It sounded like Benny's bedroom door being pushed open. Lily's expression grew thoughtful. She glanced at the phone on her nightstand, but made no move to grab it. Instead, she continued to listen. Soon, the footsteps echoed from the living room again. Tap, tap, tap. They seemed to be approaching her room. A moment later, the footsteps stopped. Lily's expression tensed. She could hear clearly that the person outside was standing right in front of her door. Before she could think, the doorknob began to turn slowly. Halfway it stopped. There wasn't a trace of fear in Lily's eyes. Her usually timid face was now incredibly cold. She took a small step back, her body slightly tensed. A few seconds later, the doorknob was turned fully. With a creak, the door was pushed open. Simultaneously, Lily lunged forward. Only as she got close did she realize the person at the door was holding a gun. The girl was stunned for only an instant. She immediately sidestepped, simultaneously reaching out to grab the barrel of the gun, her little finger hooking behind the trigger guard to prevent an accidental discharge, and threw a punch at her assailant. They grappled in the darkness for about 10 seconds. It was hard to tell who had the upper hand. A few more seconds passed, then a muffled grunt from Lily, and strangely, the living room lights flickered on. Finn stood impassively, one hand gripping Lily's throat, the other holding the gun to her head. However, the slide and magazine of the gun were now in Lily's hands. By the entryway, Ethan stood with his arms crossed, his eyes dark, a faint smile playing on his lips. Jax pursed his lips, his expression unreadable. Benny's eyes were wide with disbelief. Realizing she'd been tricked, Lily pressed her lips together, her expression complex as she stared at Ethan for a moment before lowering her head. Finn retrieved the parts from her hand and reassembled the gun. He then stared at the girl's calloused hands for a good 5 or 6 seconds. If his face could register expressions, it would undoubtedly show profound surprise. Expert with firearms, Finn stated, then pulled open Lily's pajama top. On her right shoulder was a distinct layer of callous skin, and used a heavier weapons. Lily stood submissively, offering no defense. Ethan walked forward. Kiddo, he began, I've always wondered, are you Victor Vance's woman, or were you planted by someone else to be near him? Ethan continued, the first time I saw you was in the study at the Grand Hall. You accidentally opened the door. I noticed the calluses on your hands then. Later, when you were tying my tie, I observed more closely. The calluses on your right thumb, forefinger, and the sides of your index finger are thick. Usually, only people who handle guns regularly develop calluses like that. And the calluses on your left hand are almost identical, especially on the thumb and palm. That's the kind of wear you get from frequently handling larger weapons. I imagine you're not just good with handguns, but sniper rifles too, right? Lily's eyelids flickered, Surprise showed on her face. Mr. Ethan, you know about guns? Ethan smiled faintly. Victor Vance is a businessman. It's not strange for him to have bodyguards. But you're only 23 and so proficient with firearms. You must have started handling them when you were 15 or 16, at least. That doesn't sound like a bodyguard. That sounds like a trained assassin. Victor Vance probably isn't capable of that kind of training. Your hands. Most people wouldn't notice. Combined with your cover as a maid, no one would pay attention to you. I was puzzled. Who trained you? And what was their purpose in placing you near Victor Vance? To be honest, even though Victor Vance is a bastard, he's still my old man. I couldn't just ignore it. So I brought you with me. 1, to ensure his safety. 2, I wanted to see who you really were. But it's been so long, and you haven't tried to get close to Victor. After I moved out, you didn't make any special effort to get close to me either, just dutifully played the maid. I even had Jax check your phone and your room. Nothing. I really can't figure you out. What's your story? What's your objective? Lily looked like she wanted to speak, but then lowered her head again. Ethan frowned. Unless you were Victor Vance's person? That old bastard. Training a teenager to use guns. He actually would do something like that, wouldn't he? Lily quickly shook her head. No, that's not it. Mister. Ethan, you've misunderstood, Mr. Victor. No. Ethan grew more suspicious, but a wave of relief washed over him. If Lily really had been trained by Victor, there was no telling how much trouble his wayward son would stir up tonight. Lily looked conflicted. After an internal struggle, she finally spoke, her voice strained. I'm with the Thorne family. The answer genuinely shocked Ethan. My father-in-law. Lily nodded. Actually, it's not a secret I can't tell you. Before Mr. Thorne went to prison, he met with Mr. Victor. They arranged your marriage with Miss Isabel. Later, during their conversation, Mr. Victor mentioned he was investigating an old matter from 10 years ago, and it might be dangerous. So he asked Mr. Thorne for me. Ethan thought for a moment, then it dawned on him. That old fox. He told me Isabel's dowry wasn't small. So he met you, and here I was, worried sick for him. Huh. The bodyguard he went to such lengths to acquire, and I ended up poaching her. Sigh. Lily looked embarrassed. Mr. Ethan, actually Mr. Victor wanted me to be with you from the start, but he was afraid you'd be suspicious and wouldn't accept me. So, he told me that after you returned to the Vance family, I should find a way to get your attention, preferably to stay by your side. Ethan recalled Lily accidentally opening the door, Victor pretending he was going to fire her, and Lily's eagerness to tie his tie, change his shoes. He sighed. All that effort, and you probably never imagined I kept you around because of the calluses on your hands, right? A fortunate accident, I guess. By the way, my father-in-law is just a moderately successful entrepreneur. Why would he train you? Lily fidgeted with her fingers, looking uneasy. It's not like that. I'm actually Vietnamese. I was controlled by warlords since I was a child. One time, I was injured and Mr. Thorne rescued me. I've stayed by his side ever since. So that's how it is. Ethan's gaze towards Lily softened with pity, his tone gentler. My father-in-law generously sent you to the Vance family. Isabel must have others like you around her then. Lily shook her head. That I don't know. Ethan sighed, his voice soft. Kiddo, you've suffered a lot, haven't you? I'm sorry. Finn, you don't know how to go easy, do you? Look, you've bruised her neck. Finn blinked his vacant eyes. If I recall correctly, she was trying to kill me just now. A wave of dizziness washed over Lily. Someone like her. Why would anyone care? A pang of bitterness welled up inside her. Ethan reached out and gently tapped her head. He smiled. Go prepare a room for Finn. You'll have to cook for one more person from now on. Thanks for your hard work. Lily's mouth fell slightly open, her expression one of disbelief. In her mind, Ethan was surely going to kick her out. How could it? What are you waiting for? Go on, or I'll dock your pay. Yes, Mr. Ethan, I'll go right away. Lily's eyes curved slightly, tears welling at the corners as she hurried upstairs. Ethan sat down on the sofa with his 3 men, his expression gradually turning serious. The information Marcus gave us tonight is crucial. I've already got Milo on it. Jax, can you see if there are other ways to investigate? Relying on Milo alone is too slow. Jax shrugged. Oh, for God's sake, hackers aren't miracle workers. If I knew what they were trying to get from your mother, I might be able to help. Finn blinked, perhaps the only facial movement he was capable of, looking as calm as ever. According to Marcus, there were 2 suitcases of money that night, totaling $8 million US, plus some gold bars. That a huge sum, and it was 10 years ago. What could possibly be that valuable? Ethan drew a breath. My mother was a medical doctor, a PhD. What others wanted must have been related to some medical research. But the day after my mother was kidnapped, the company she worked for dissolved. It vanished overnight, All employee records permanently deleted. There's no way to trace it. Finn was silent for a moment. We can only take it one step at a time. Anyway, I'm not good at investigating. Anything else I can do? Ethan clapped him on the shoulder, then paused. Tell me about you. How did you suddenly get divorced? Finn's thin lips parted. She married me for money. But I don't blame her. I actually gave her a chance. Hearing this, Jax's scalp tingled. He couldn't help but swallow. Benny, who had been through one shock after another tonight, muttered and scooted away. Jesus Christ. This damn guy gives off such bad vibes. Lord, if you're going to smite him, don't take me with him. Finn looked at the big guy, his voice neutral. Still haven't drained the water out of your brain. Boss, you hear him? He's saying it again. Benny jumped up, glaring at Finn for a moment before storming off to his room. Ethan shook his head with a smile, then kicked Finn lightly on the ankle. You know he's sensitive about that. Don't say it anymore. Finn's gaze was surprisingly earnest. I was joking. You guys couldn't tell? Jax, with that face, joking probably isn't your strong suit. It had been a while since Ethan had teased the big lug, ever since he'd moved into Isabel Thorne's building. Lily poked her head out of the kitchen, her hair down, and greeted him shyly. Mr. Ethan, morning. Now that things were out in the open, the girl seemed much more relaxed, her smile more natural. Ethan smiled and nodded in return. He turned to make himself some tea, but halfway there, he saw Finn sitting bolt upright in front of the imposing bronze panther statue, a Bible in his hands, reciting softly. Finn slowly turned his head, his stiff expression looking somewhat goofy. I'm accustomed to reading the Bible in front of statues, he stated calmly. Ethan, you do you. Just don't be surprised if the panther decides to strike you down. With that, he made his tea, sat on the sofa, glanced at the time, and called Victor Vance. It took a while for the call to be answered, and when it was a young woman's sleepy voice. Hello, Ethan. A moment later, there was a commotion on the other end. Ethan vaguely heard Victor exclaim something, then take the phone. Son, I'm out for my morning workout. Met a like-minded young lady, just discussing fitness. My phone was on the side, and hers happens to be the same model, same ringtone. What's up so early? Ethan knew his old man's ways and didn't bother engaging. Are you also investigating Mom's case? Victor was silent for a moment, then chuckled. Lily spilled the beans? Son, I'm doing this for your own good. Ethan cut him off. How's it going? Anything to share? Victor pondered. No leads yet. You. Ethan didn't hesitate, relaying all the information Marcus Chun had provided. A tattoo? And a Port Sterling local. That's crucial. I'll have my people look into it right away. Victor, Ethan paused. I always thought all you cared about was the family fortune. Now, it seems there's still a place for Mom in your heart. Victor laughed. I never said I didn't love her. You're just too stubborn in your thinking. Ethan snorted. You didn't cherish her when she was alive. She practically begged to see you. Now you tell me you love her? Heh, don't you find that ridiculous? Victor fell silent again. After a long pause, seemingly unwilling to discuss the topic, he said, Son, you've been very quiet lately. It'll make your aunt and uncle suspicious. Ethan took a deep breath, annoyed. When are you finally going to take the helm at Vance Holdings? Victor made a huh sound. Why do I get the feeling you're a bit off? Worried Isabel will get jealous? Son, just hang in there a bit longer. Ethan hung up directly and dialed his upright, incorruptible cousin in the police force, Detective Eva Rostova. He had thought about it a lot last night. Port Sterling was a big city, and 10 years had passed. Finding someone based solely on a tattoo was like looking for a needle in a haystack. That's why he'd thought of asking Victor and Eva for help. Yeah, Eva was probably still asleep. Her voice was slightly nasal. What's up? Ethan got straight to the point. Got a lead for you. After hearing him out, Eva was wide awake. You want me to find someone for you? Oof. Ethan Vance. I'm telling you, I'll find a person, but I'm not handing them over to you. Whatever. Ethan chuckled. Just a reminder, check your system for past criminal records. See if there's a match. You don't need to teach me how to do my job. Ethan couldn't resist a jab. 30 years old and still can't get married. You really should do some self-reflection. Are you asking to come down to the precinct for another cup of tea? Bye. Hanging up, Ethan sipped his tea. Noticing Benny hadn't emerged yet, he thought for a moment and went to Benny's room. The big guy was lying face down on the bed, looking dejected. Seeing Ethan enter, he craned his neck and called out, Boss. Yeah. Ethan patted his back and smiled. Still mad? No. Mad at Finn or mad at me? Neither. You? Ethan lit a cigarette and offered one to Benny. I know you're upset with me for not telling you about Lily's strangeness sooner. Benny, you can't hide things. I was afraid if I told you, your attitude towards Lily would change drastically and she'd notice, understand? Benny blinked, then nodded. I get it, boss. I'm just too dumb. Who said you're dumb? Ethan smiled, then changed the subject. You like Lily? I don't. Benny scratched his head. I really don't. Ethan's smile widened. Don't rush it. Take it slow. When the time is right, I'll play matchmaker for you. Benny's face turned beet red as he grinned foolishly. All right, get some more sleep. You had a long day yesterday, must be tired. I'm going to pick up your sister-in-law today. It was only 7:30 when he reached the underground garage of Isabel Thorne's apartment building. Ethan leisurely went upstairs, watered the plants, fussed with his hair. Around 8, he heard the door across the hall open. Click. The young heir opened his door, a radiant smile on his face. Well, Isabel. Fancy meeting you here. Isabel stood by the elevator, glancing at him sideways, her voice cool. I heard you. You just got back. Ethan, shameless, replied. Touched. Isabel pressed her lips together, silent. Ethan, aren't you going to ask if I was out carousing again? What's it to me? Isabel rolled her eyes. You do your thing. If your grandfather blames me, I'll just take it. Ethan clicked his tongue. The main wife is always so magnanimous. Ding. The elevator doors opened, and the couple stepped inside, one after the other. Isabel, let's grab a meal sometime? Even a fake couple needs to look the part, for the old man's sake. Isabel's lips twitched. A thought suddenly occurred to her. Ethan Vance, you moved here because you wanted the old man to think we're living together, didn't you? When Ethan had moved, he did indeed have that intention. He raised an eyebrow. A woman being too smart isn't always a good thing. Isabel looked a little embarrassed. Opened her mouth, the word thanks, just reaching her lips when the elevator suddenly shuddered. Immediately after, the lights in the elevator flickered twice and went out. Simultaneously, the elevator dropped a short distance, then jammed, unmoving. Isabel braced herself against the elevator wall, her bag having been flung to the floor by the jolt. Her heart pounded. Is it broken? It was pitch black. She couldn't see Ethan at all, only heard a thud, probably that damn man losing his footing and bumping into something, but she didn't hear him speak. Ethan Vance. Ethan Vance. Stop messing around. Get your phone out, I need to find my bag. When there was no response for a long time, Isabel had no choice but to crouch down and carefully feel around on the floor for her bag. Suddenly, she faintly heard a rustling sound like a trembling breath. Ethan Vance? Isabel started to feel scared. You, don't try to scare me, this isn't funny. However, the sound grew stronger. Isabel was a huge horror movie fan. The current atmosphere inevitably made her think of all those movie scenes where ghosts haunt elevators. Swallowing hard, she fought back her fear and finally fumbled her way to her bag. Due to the confined space and her fear, a thin layer of sweat had already beaded on the beautiful CEO's forehead. Listening to the trembling breaths from the corner, her hand also began to shake involuntarily. It took her a long time to pull out her phone. She quickly turned on the flashlight and instinctively shone it to the side. Only then did she discover Ethan Vance huddled in the corner of the elevator, arms wrapped tightly around himself, as if he'd seen a ghost, his whole body shaking violently. Isabel jumped, taking an involuntary step back. Ethan Vance. What's wrong with you? The phone's light was directly on Ethan's face. That usually playful, handsome face was now etched with terror. His eyes were so red they looked like they might bleed. His nose, temples, and entire forehead were covered in a dense layer of cold sweat. Ethan Vance. Don't scare me. Isabel's mind went blank. She was at a complete loss. Ethan trembled even more intensely, as if possessed, muttering incomprehensible things. Isabel could only make out a few words. King. No, not king. Just dirt. Below. Work. For the master. Not a night. Never the night. Ethan Vance. Isabel called out again, her voice trembling. This sudden turn of events had thrown her into a panic, and for a moment, she even forgot to press the elevator's emergency call button. Ethan tried to burrow further into the corner, as if someone invisible, yet terrifying, was closing in on him. His face was drained of all color, white as paper, his collar soaked with sweat. He continued to mutter those strange words. Please. I was wrong. I beg you. Please. 9 o'clock, PSU Medical Center. In the hallway, a doctor held a chart, speaking to Isabel Thorne. Physically, he's mostly fine, but he's exhibiting some abnormal physiological responses, elevated heart rate, high blood pressure, dilated pupils. Based on your description of what happened, I recommend that when he wakes up, you take him to see a psychologist. A psychologist? Isabel was stunned. The doctor nodded. Just as he was about to speak again, a nurse's shriek came from the hospital room. Isabel rushed into the room. The sight that greeted her was Ethan Vance, one hand gripping a nurse's throat, the other poised at his waist as if to draw a gun. His face was contorted and terrifying, his eyes like those of a wolf stalking prey in the darkness, fixed intently on the nurse, his body trembling uncontrollably. The young nurse was choking, her hands desperately trying to pry Ethan's hand away. But whether it was her lack of strength or the air's extraordinary power, she couldn't break free. Ethan Vance. At Isabel's shout, Ethan seemed to snap out of a nightmare. He gradually came to his senses, released his grip, and gasped for breath. The young nurse coughed violently, tears streaming down her face, as the doctor helped her out of the room. Seeing that Ethan, less than half a minute after waking, was already drenched in sweat, Isabel felt a mix of emotions. She pulled out a few tissues and handed them to him. "Thanks." Ethan looked utterly disheveled. He took the tissues, wiped his sweat, and said softly, "Did I scare you?" Isabel's lips parted. "You? What happened?" Ethan took a few deep breaths, trying to control his trembling. After a long silence, he asked instead of answering, "Did you bring me here alone?" Isabel, and 2 security guards from the building. Ethan nodded, pulled the 4-2 from the back of his hand, and got out of bed to put on his shoes. Isabel thought for a moment. "The doctor said, you should see a psychologist." Ethan, having put on his shoes, silently straightened his clothes. "Did you hear me? I sweated a lot," Ethan said, his expression odd. "Smell me, do I stink?" Isabel frowned. "I said, you should see a psychologist." Ethan clearly wanted to avoid the topic. A corner of his mouth twitched upwards. "Isabel, are you worried about me?" "Go or don't, I don't care." Their conversation once again ended on a sour note. Isabel picked up her bag and walked out of the room, answering a call from Wendy. Ethan casually followed, planning to go home and take a shower. Seeing the doctor comforting the young nurse he had choked, the heir felt a pang of guilt. He pulled out his phone, approached her, and smiled faintly. "Sorry about earlier. I was having a nightmare." The young nurse was sobbing, her face full of resentment, clearly not wanting to talk to him. $2,800 a month for dirty, tiring, thankless work, and she'd almost lost her life. This job was impossible. Ethan sighed. "Hey, miss, take out your phone. Let's connect on a messaging app." "Nurse? After all that, he still wants my contact? Could he be any more shameless? What brain-dead TV show did he learn these pickup lines from? If you weren't so handsome, I wouldn't even bother." After adding him, Ethan casually walked towards the elevator. The young nurse wiped her tears, sniffling, looking utterly wronged. A moment later, her phone buzzed with a transfer notification. She opened the message, stared at the string of numbers highlighted in yellow, her eyes widening. She was stunned for a long moment, then burst into tears of laughter. See, making a girl happy was actually quite simple. Isabel had just arrived at Elysian Media when Wendy rushed up to her. "Ms. Thorne, the head of the Influencer Hub has been waiting outside Mr. Vance's office since early this morning. Director Stevens has been in the conference room for half an hour, says there are some changes to the show, wants to discuss Kimberly Frost's performance direction with you." Isabel said as she walked, "Call Kimberly Frost. Tell her she absolutely must come to the office." Okay. They reached Isabel's office. She took off her coat and hung it up. "Go get the head of the Influencer Hub, and remember to offer Director Stevens more tea." Wendy, got it. A moment later, the head of the Influencer Hub hurried into the office. "Ms. Thorne, you were looking for me." Isabel's voice was cool. "Is there something urgent you need to handle over there?" The man gave a sycophantic smile. "Not exactly urgent. It's just, the hub is officially launching today. Mr. Vance had previously arranged for a ribbon-cutting ceremony to leverage the traffic from the big influencers we poach from other platforms, create some online buzz." Isabel mused. "Mr. Vance can't make it today. How about this? I'll attend, you give the speech." The man paused, then smiled. "I couldn't ask for more." The Influencer Hub had always been Ethan's project. Isabel hadn't paid much attention, thinking he was just messing around. However, when she arrived at the hub, she discovered the heir had actually done a decent job. The talent pool was quite rich. Apart from a large number of newcomers, the rest were all somewhat famous online. Just among the female influencers she knew, with over 5 million followers, there were 7 or 8. In fact, she didn't usually pay much attention to influencers. Knowing these particular women wasn't because they were exceptionally famous, but because, without exception, they had all been rumored to be involved with Ethan Vance. That dog of a man, mixing business with pleasure, creating his own harem? Isabel couldn't help but grumble internally. But then, thinking about the benefits these influencers could bring to the company, she genuinely felt Ethan's sacrifice of his reputation was worth it. Very much so. The head of the hub was in his early 30s, dressed in an old-fashioned, stuffy manner, exuding a strong air of leadership. Although he hadn't prepared a speech, he spoke in a long-winded, cliché-ridden manner, apparently heavily influenced by bureaucratic culture. He thought he was quoting classics and speaking eloquently, but in reality, he was drawing out a fart into an endless series of toots, like an old woman's foot-binding cloth, stinky and long. Little did he know, the listeners had long since been cursing his ancestors in their minds. A full hour later, the ribbon-cutting finally began. After participating in the event, Isabel strode out. Passing by the restroom, as luck would have it, she heard two female influencers washing their hands and discussing Ethan Vance. Why didn't Mr. Vance come today? I kind of miss him. I don't know, probably out gallivanting again last night. Hey, last time Mr. Vance took you to a hotel, did he touch you? No. Isn't he weird? He was all handsy with me at the bar, but once we got to the room, he was like a wilted vegetable, just conked out. No matter how I tried to tease him, he didn't react, even got mad at me. Same here. Last time I got out of the shower naked, and he all drunk just yelled at me. You think he can't get it up? Yeah. Isabel walked past calmly, glanced at the two, and pretended she hadn't heard anything. Stepping out of the hub and into the elevator, the Ice Queen suddenly frowned, muttering to herself, Can't get it up? A glance showed it was her best friend, Dr. Zoe Russell. Zoe, my beautiful darling, you haven't been here in a month. What's up, giving up on treatment? On the screen was a woman in a black turtleneck sweater, her hair in a bun, with a mischievous look, especially her large, expressive eyes. On the wall behind her hung a gold-plated sign, Mindshift Wellness, Zoe Russell, Ph.D. It was the holidays, everyone's busy. Facing her close friend, Isabel's usual coolness vanished, replaced by a natural smile. Isabel, has that dog of a man in your life conquered you? You don't need my treatment anymore. Isabel rolled her eyes. You think that's possible? Zoe giggled for a while, then teased. I actually hope he can conquer you. It would be a happy accident curing your issue. Zoe. Isabel's tone held a hint of warning. All right, I'll stop messing around. Zoe reined in her smile. It's getting late. You should be done with work, right? Come over. I'll give you a session first, then tonight we'll grab dinner with Leo. Old rules. I pick the place, Leo orders, you pay. Isabel smiled, then suddenly remembered Ethan's strange behavior in the elevator that morning. Thoughtfully, she said, Okay, Zoe. Actually, I have something I want to ask you too. Come on over. No charge for you, darling. I'm just after your body. He. You pervert. You should give yourself a psych consult sometime. The two friends bantered for a bit. After ending the video call, Isabel called Wendy, delegated some tasks, then grabbed her bag and left the office. Half an hour later, Isabel drove to Mindshift Wellness. Though it sounded grand, it was actually just an apartment Zoe rented where she lived and worked. After some light-hearted chat, Isabel, familiar with the place, walked straight into the spare bedroom that had been converted into a therapy room. Zoe followed with 2 cups of instant coffee. Zoe, I have a question for you, Isabel said, holding her coffee cup. If a normal person gets trapped in a pitch-black elevator and suddenly has a sort of breakdown, acts terrified, like they've seen a ghost, why would that happen? Out of professional habit, Zoe became serious as soon as she entered the therapy room. Listening to Isabel's description, she mused, confined space, darkness, extreme fear. My initial thought is claustrophobia, but I need to diagnose them personally to be sure. Claustrophobia? Isabel looked thoughtful. Zoe nodded. This kind of psychological condition can be hereditary, but the probability is very small. Other causes include excessive life stress, traumatic childhood experiences, and so on. The most common is psychological trauma caused by abuse, and in most cases, it's irreversible. Abuse? Isabel couldn't help but frown. She remembered Ethan in the elevator, trembling and muttering incoherently about, I beg you, I was wrong. Her heart clenched. Zoe was probably right. But that heir was born into a wealthy family. Even if he wasn't favored as a child and was often berated by Theodore Vance, it shouldn't have caused such severe psychological trauma, right? Could something have happened during the 8 years he was missing? What had he been through? Isabel pondered, remembering how Ethan, upon waking in the hospital, had instinctively reached for his waist, as if to draw a gun. No way. He doesn't seem that sinister. I must be overthinking it. Seeing Isabel lost in thought, Zoe asked suspiciously, Hey, what are you thinking about? This person you're talking about, it's not someone close to you, is it? Introduce me, girl. I'm about to go broke. Isabel answered cryptically, Zoe, help me analyze this. King. No, not king. Just dirt. Below. Work. For the master. Not a knight. Never the knight. What does that mean? Zoe looked completely baffled. Are these words the patient you mentioned said during an episode? Yes, that's right. Zoe took out a pen and paper from a drawer. Muttering to herself, she wrote down the words, thought for a long time, then suddenly slapped the table. I get it. Look, these phrases all describe a sort of demotion or a change in status from King. Isabel blinked. So, Zoe, that's it. Isn't it just finding a pattern? Isabel. They stared at each other. After a moment, Zoe pouted. Are you treating me like some kind of psychic, thinking I can diagnose remotely? If you really want to figure it out, bring the person here. At worst, for your sake, I won't charge him for the initial consultation. Isabel pressed her lips together. Before she could speak, a message suddenly popped up on her phone, which was on the table. It was from Ethan. I'll take your advice. Seeing a psychologist. Zoe saw the message clearly. Holy crap. You're talking about that dog of a man from your family? Zoe shot up from her chair, eyes wide with astonishment. Cupid must be blind. How'd he tie you two nuts together? Isabel rolled her eyes at her, then, uncharacteristically, replied to Ethan with a simple okay. She said to Zoe, you're the nut. Anyway, forget about him. Let's start the session. Zoe was stunned for a full 2 minutes before calming down. Isabel, ready? Relax. I'm going to begin. Isabel lay back on the recliner, her eyes slightly closed, and responded softly, 5 minutes earlier, Ethan had once again woken up from a nightmare, looking extremely distressed, drenched in sweat. After catching his breath, the phone on his nightstand suddenly rang. Mr. Vance, why didn't you come today? I missed you so much. Are you free tonight? Grace me with your presence for a drink. It was a well-known influencer from the Creator Hub. Ever since Isabel had slapped Chloe Miller, everyone at Elysian Media knew about her relationship with Ethan, especially the agents, who had repeatedly, even sternly, warned their artists not to get involved with Mr. Vance anymore, unless they didn't want a career at Elysian. Consequently, those female celebrities who had been dreaming of marrying into wealth had their illusions shattered and had to painfully delete Ethan's contact information, all lamenting internally. Why was I born if Isabel Thorne already exists? Even so, Ethan found no peace. Many of the female influencers he had recruited himself didn't know about his relationship with Isabel, and even if they did, they weren't necessarily afraid. After all, Ethan was in full control of the influencer hub. Isabel couldn't interfere. Ethan's mind was a mess. He instinctively wanted to refuse, but then he remembered what Victor had said that morning. He frowned impatiently, then chuckled and agreed. After dealing with the influencer, he was about to take a shower when Milo, as if on cue, sent a message. Isabel Thorne is at a private psychological clinic called Mindshift Wellness. I checked. She goes there often. The therapist is her former classmate, Zoe Russell. They're very close. Ethan seemed to have anticipated this. What are her psychological issues? Milo couldn't find out. Wanting to have Jax plant a bug? That's easy. Ethan was speechless. Some methods shouldn't be used indiscriminately. Send me the location. Milo was straightforward, not only sending the clinic's location precise down to the suite number, but also including Zoe Russell's phone number. Exiting the chat, a bitter smile touched Ethan's lips. He muttered, 2 people with psychological issues. How are they supposed to date? Huh. Then, he sent Isabel the message. I'll take your advice. Seeing a psychologist. Seeing her best friend drenched in sweat, Zoe's eyes filled with concern. She took Isabel's hands, which were as cold as if they'd just been pulled from a freezer, tears welling in her eyes, and forced a smile. Isabel, are you okay? Isabel slowly shook her head, her breathing slightly shaky, her tone utterly despondent. Zoe, am I incurable? I feel like it's getting worse. No, it's not. We can definitely cure it. Trust me. Zoe vowed. Relax, adjust your breathing. Yes, just like that. Under her guidance, Isabel gradually calmed down. Isabel, you need to start controlling your medication now. You've been taking it for so many years. If you continue, you'll develop a dependency. Then, I'm afraid it will be even worse. Isabel sat up, down the cold coffee in front of her, and said listlessly, I know. Zoe pursed her lips. I still suggest you try to slowly make contact with men. Try to control your emotions. Just simple physical touches, like handshakes, high fives. Try more often. It will help your condition. Isabel said weakly, it's useless. I've tried so many times, shaking hands with different people, but every time, it doesn't last more than 3 seconds before I feel completely uncomfortable. Zoe smacked her lips, her face troubled. If you had a close male friend who could regularly interact with you, it would naturally benefit your condition. But you're like a nun. There are hardly any men around you. The only one, Leo, barely counts as half a man. AI, this is going to kill me. I almost wish I could turn into a man myself. Isabel smiled faintly. Careful Leo doesn't hear you and skin you alive. Zoe, mischievous. Calling him half a man is generous, huh? Just as she finished speaking, Leo called her. The two friends exchanged a smile. Zoe said, this guy really has dog-like timing. Huh? Isabel, you go take a shower first. After you're done, we'll head out. I'm gonna bleed you dry tonight. 20 minutes later, just as they got downstairs, Zoe's phone rang again. She thought it was the half a man she'd been talking about, calling to hurry her, but a glance showed it was an unknown number. The psychologist had recently invested a small sum in advertising her clinic on a platform, so most unknown numbers were potential patients seeking consultation. However, very few of those who consulted actually came for treatment. Hello, good morning. Dr. Russell, I'd like to schedule a therapy session. Are you available now? Zoe pouted, thinking Murphy's Law was no joke. No one had come all day, and just when she was about to go have fun, business arrived. After a pause, seemingly thinking there was still a chance to salvage it, she added, maybe you can come tomorrow? The person on the other end was very calm. Right now, Zoe was puzzled. Which discerning connoisseur had discovered her, this unpolished gem, to be so insistent? After weighing her options, she decided to make an outrageous demand to test the authenticity of this discerning eye. I'm very expensive. 1 hour. 2,000. The word thousand was so weighty that it made her heart race, but only for an instant. She then felt she was probably being delusional. 2,000 an hour was expert-level pricing. The person on the other end might have psychological issues, but they weren't brain damaged. Sure enough, a doubtful voice came from the other side. 2,000? Zoe wasn't disheartened by this entirely unsurprising letdown. Just as she was about to say goodbye, she heard the person on the other end chuckle. I'll be there in 10 minutes. 20,000 for the hour, payment up front, then treatment. If it's effective, there's an additional reward. If not, no need for a refund. Zoe was petrified, her expression frozen for a long moment. She slowly tilted her head up, looked at the gray sky, and whispered to Isabel, dumbstruck, Isabel, do you see an eye opening in the sky? Isabel. Zoe swallowed, feigning composure as she spoke into the phone. All right, your persistence has moved me. It seems you really need my help. See you in 10 minutes. Hanging up, Zoe could no longer suppress her excitement, jumping and bouncing like a madwoman. My dream of becoming a rich woman is within reach. Ha ha. Isabel, you go have dinner with Leo first. I'll save you some money and head straight to round 2. Wahaha, I'm rich. Isabel. Not far away, a silver gray GTR was parked in a hidden corner. Ethan Vance, a cigarette dangling from his lips, was idly spinning his phone in one hand, muttering, what a weirdo. 10 minutes later, the doorbell of the psychological clinic rang. Zoe, who had been eagerly waiting behind the door, took a deep breath, trying her best to appear calm. The smile on her face was perfectly composed, serene and elegant. She waited until the bell rang for the 4th time before opening the door. You? The word hello was still caught in her throat when the beauty, who daydreamed of becoming rich, froze on the spot. The smile on her face seemed to have been set in C40 concrete. Forget calm. If she were a man, her balls would be aching right now. Ethan Vance, looking perfectly at ease, raised an eyebrow. Doctor? Zoe took a dazed step back. In that single step, her mind raced through a mental volume of 10,000 whys. She readjusted her composure, continued to be serene and elegant, and smiled. Hello, please come in. Ethan nodded and stepped inside, silently following the doctor towards the therapy room. From behind, Zoe appeared as graceful as a maiden, her steps dignified. But in reality, her pretty face, which could be considered uniquely beautiful, was currently more expressive than a Sichuan opera master performing a face-changing act. How could it be him? Isabel would never let him come here. Can such coincidences really happen in the world? What kind of ill-fated connection is this? Heavens, did you open your butt eye instead? Muttering under her breath, she still had to face reality. Zoe sat upright, pointed to the high-end leather chair opposite her, one she had scrimped and saved for a month to buy, and smiled. Please sit. Ethan sat down, and like a nouveau riche, pulled out 2 wads of cash and tossed them onto the table. He smiled faintly. I saw your ad online. I was just passing by, so I thought I'd drop in. Take the money first. It really is an ill-fated connection. Zoe grumbled internally, relaxing her guard somewhat. But adhering to the principle of only an idiot wouldn't take free money, her movements in taking the cash were quite skilled and natural. She adopted a very professional demeanor and said, let's talk about your condition first. Ethan's eyes crinkled with a smile. No rush. I have a question for you. After a moment's thought, Ethan continued, If a normal woman suddenly becomes very agitated and loses control of her emotions when she comes into contact with a man, what kind of problem is that? Zoe, you too, please give me a break. Can't I be the one with problems here? For real? Zoe, though stunned, quickly processed this and came to a conclusion in her mind. Isabel's condition made it impossible for her to genuinely care for a man. So, she had probably witnessed Ethan's episode, been frightened, and was asking out of curiosity. As for this rake, he was probably interested in any pretty woman, let alone a stunning beauty like Isabel. As the saying goes, the unobtainable is always a source of agitation. He must be scheming to get a read on Isabel, right? She feared that once he succeeded and satisfied his desire for conquest, he wouldn't even look at Isabel again. Setting aside the fact that he definitely wouldn't get Isabel, just his predatory intentions were enough to infuriate Zoe. Muttering "damn scumbag" under her breath, she feigned calmness and said, "The situation you're describing is very rare. It's hard for me to say definitively, but according to past case records, such conditions mostly fall under mental illness. If it's someone you know, you must keep your distance. Absolutely do not approach her. Otherwise, if she loses emotional control, the consequences could be unimaginable." She paused, then added, "It's not out of the question that could be life-threatening. You must be very careful. Best friends often share everything, and moreover, she was Isabel's psychologist. She naturally knew about the incident where Isabel had cut Ethan with a knife. Therefore, she wanted to use this undisputed fact to deter this playboy. But how could Ethan not see through her little tricks? He simply couldn't be bothered to expose her. Calmly, he asked, "Then based on your so-called past cases, can this illness be cured?" Zoe was taken aback. "The probability is very small. So, there's a chance it can be cured?" Zoe neither confirmed nor denied. What on earth is this damn man up to? Does he really want to cure Isabel? After pondering for a moment, she said, "I'd need to see the person to make a definitive judgment. Now let's talk about you." Ethan pulled out a cigarette case and bit one onto his lip. Zoe frowned. "No smoking." Ethan ignored her, lit the cigarette himself, took a deep drag, and then slowly exhaled the smoke. Through the haze, his eyes suddenly turned sinister, staring intently at Zoe's eyes, a wicked curl to his lips, his tone icy. "Ever play the King's Fall game?" The smoke swirled, his gaze like a knife. The scene sent a shiver down Zoe's spine, leaving her momentarily unable to react. "King, -1 piece, what is he?" Ethan sneered, an inexplicable, murderous aura emanating from his eyes. Zoe swallowed, recalling the words Isabel had described, and subconsciously said, "Dirt, minus another. Work?" she ventured, following the pattern she'd heard. "Add 1. Master, -1 again. Knight?" she ventured, following the pattern she'd heard. "You repeated. Heh." He leaned in, his voice dropping to a low purr. "Ready for your punishment?" Zoe trembled again. Amidst her fear, she seemed to gain a rough understanding of Ethan's psychological trauma. Seeing the psychologist turn pale with fright, Ethan suddenly burst out laughing. The grimness on his face vanished instantly, replaced by a teasing expression. "Just kidding. It's just a kid's game. Heh. Come on, try your hypnosis on me. Let me get some good sleep." It was almost 10 o'clock when Zoe finally met up with Isabel and Leo at Inferno. Isabel was nursing a fruit juice, with an extremely androgynous pretty boy sitting beside her, wearing a pair of red stud earrings, a red shawl, and red trendy ankle boots, with long, flowing hair. He was actually somewhat handsome, but his getup was hard to describe. This was Leo, the half-a-man Zoe often mentioned, and also Isabel's childhood friend. What took you so long?" Leo drawled. "Shut up, you ambiguous thing. Grandma here is annoyed." Zoe snapped. "Oh, menopause hit already. You're as redundant as the junk in your pants." Isabel, used to her two best friends' verbal sparring, smiled faintly and asked, "What's wrong? Ran into a difficult patient?" Rich lady dreams shattered. Zoe grabbed Isabel's juice and took a large gulp, looking dazed. "I ran into a ghost." Leo, holding a cocktail glass with a delicate flourish of his fingers, scoffed. "You look like you could ward off evil spirits yourself. Afraid of ghosts? Get lost." Zoe glared at him, then said to Isabel, "Isabel, do you know who came to see me?" Isabel gave her a questioning look. "That dog of a man from your life." Isabel was instantly astonished. "Him? How'd he end up at your place?" Zoe pouted. "It must have been a coincidence. Judging by his reaction, he doesn't know about our relationship. But he did ask me about your symptoms." Isabel wasn't worried at all that her best friend would betray her. She just found Ethan's appearance at Mindshift Wellness too coincidental and frowned thoughtfully. "Isabel, There's one thing I'm pretty sure about now. That husband of yours, he really has suffered abuse. It's just buried deep inside him, very hard to dig out. I used every trick in the book, hypnosis, art therapy, but he was completely calm from beginning to end, looking at me like I was an idiot. Can you imagine how that feels? Arg, if I see him again, I'll strangle him. Isabel's expression grew serious. She said nothing. Isabel, Leo flicked his hair, smiling effeminately. What's wrong with you? You look like you're worried about him. Is the fake act turning real? Oh, does that mean your illness can be cured? Isabel rolled her eyes. Boring. Let's not talk about him. Want to order some beer? Time always flies when you're having fun. Before they knew it, it was midnight, and the atmosphere in the bar had been cranked up to a frenzy by the DJ. In some newfangled trend, after the DJ counted down from 3, the music suddenly blasted, deafeningly loud. Men and women on the dance floor, each holding a handful of white paper, like filial sons sending off a deceased relative, tossed it into the air. What kind of bizarre ritual was this? Leo, always at the forefront of fashion, saw his 2 friends looking clueless and chuckled. It's called mourning dead love. These young people nowadays, they really know how to play. Zoe said languidly. I feel like all these people are my potential clients. Who but someone with psychological issues would do something so outrageous? Isabel, not a big drinker, was already flushed after just 3 or 4 bottles. She chimed in, or maybe they're just plain crazy. You can't cure that. Just as they were talking, 2 men who clearly frequented nightclubs as pickup artists approached, each holding a stack of white paper. They eagerly offered them to Isabel and Zoe. Ladies, here's some paper for you. Want to join in the fun? Isabel frowned in disgust, not bothering to reply. Zoe teased, waving around 2 stacks of white paper like it's cash. If you really got guts, go throw some real money. Plenty of girls will stick to you then. One of the men retorted sharply. Sister, you've got a big appetite. Where in the world would you find such a great philanthropist? If you know one, introduce me. I'll kneel and kowtow to him, call him Grandpa on the spot. As his words fell, another wave of excitement swept through the bar. They craned their necks to see what the commotion was about when they suddenly heard a girl nearby exclaim, Holy crap, who the hell is throwing cash over there? It's Mr. Vance. Quick, go grab the money. He's definitely throwing real cash. Zoe's eyes had initially lit up, wanting to rush onto the dance floor to try her luck, but hearing Mr. Vance, she instinctively stopped. Looking closely, the person standing on a table throwing money was indeed Ethan Vance. Her desire to grab cash vanished instantly. She vented all her resentment on the 2 men who had approached them. Hey, aren't you going to go acknowledge your grandpa? Don't you have any grandsonly awareness? The 2 men's mouths hung open. After being stunned for a long moment, they scurried away in embarrassment. Leo's face was full of astonishment. Isabel, this dog of a man in your life. He looks like a shameless bastard who's hard to deal with, but it seems he's actually quite approachable by the billions. Ethan was a supreme VIP at Inferno. Isabel wasn't surprised to run into him here. However, looking at the heir's professional money-squandering face, and then at the flock of women surrounding him, this scene was bound to hit the top 3 local trending topics by morning. The thought gave Isabel a headache. Her interest in partying waned. Plus, it was getting late, so she decided to take her 2 friends home. However, she miscalculated this time. By 5 in the morning, the local news hotspots were not just featuring Ethan in the top 3. All 3 top stories were about him. The bar money-throwing incident only ranked 3rd. Second was the tearful sexual assault allegations against Ethan by 2 influencers. The first was even more explosive. Chloe Miller had jumped her death, and her divorce certificate with Ethan had been leaked. Ethan Vance had an arm around a woman on each side, surrounded by top-tier beauties. If he opened his mouth, someone would rush to offer him fruit or respectfully light his cigarette. What was leisure? What was pleasure? What was profligacy? What was being a scoundrel? Well, this was professional grade. The money-scattering deity act from an hour ago had undoubtedly made the heir the center of attention. Many people, feigning nonchalance while secretly scheming, edged closer, hoping that when this young master got drunker later, he might play the role of the money-scattering boy again, making up for their earlier lack of speed and agility. Ethan casually swept his gaze over the men and women around him. Amidst the bizarre, flickering lights, he noticed someone sneakily taking photos of him. The heir remained unfazed, casually leaning to his left, tightening his arm around the pretty influencer in a low-cut mini-dress, turning his face to leer wantonly at her ample, pale cleavage, naturally giving the camera a close-up. He then removed the hand that was around the waist of the influencer on his right, picked up a glass of so-called not going home tonight from the table, and personally brought it to the lips of the beauty in his embrace. The gesture was self-explanatory. The words were all in the drink. The beauty in his arms was a new influencer named Sky Blue, who had just entered the industry. Although she had an excellent figure and looks, she was, after all, a newcomer with only a few thousand followers. After seeing Elysian's recruitment notice online, she had recommended herself and was signed by the head of the influencer hub for a very low price. Sky Blue parted her lips, looking at Ethan with a mixture of shock and delight. Her already slightly flushed pretty face suddenly seemed to burn like hot iron. "Don't move, I'll help you drink it." Ethan's magnetic voice was full of seduction. Handsome, rich, and so damn good at flirting. What woman could resist? Just now, the heir's act of scattering money like dirt was actually because of a curious question from Sky. Why are they all throwing white paper? It feels like scattering Joss paper, it's weird. Ethan had smiled at her, recklessly saying, "Looks like they made you uncomfortable? No problem, I'll make you feel comfortable." Then he had taken his leather bag and, as if enraged into action for a beauty, started throwing handfuls of cash, leaving that consort Chin a historical beauty, utterly dumbfounded, her myriad emotions ultimately coalescing into a blurted holy crap. If the bar manager hadn't been busy picking up money while simultaneously trying to dissuade him with a sycophantic smile, "Mr. Vance, what you're doing is illegal, scatter more. I mean, don't scatter anymore. Who knows how much more money this heir might have thrown away." After Sky finished her drink, she shyly lowered her gaze. Unexpectedly, the heir gently lifted her chin with one hand and, with a tissue in the other, tenderly wiped her mouth, his face very close, as if he were about to kiss her. If the bar's music hadn't been so loud, her drum-like, rapid heartbeat would surely have been audible. Some were happy, some were sad. To the left was a fiery passion hidden beneath gentleness. To the right was a visible frostiness. The female influencer, looking resentful after being suddenly neglected by Ethan, was Kiko Z, the one who had proactively called Ethan earlier that evening to invite him for drinks. She had been signed to the influencer hub before Isabel's father's downfall. Back then, she was a lukewarm blogger with only 100,000 followers. She had shot to fame at the end of last year for cosplaying an anime character, and now her follower count had reached a staggering 12 million, her online popularity rivaling that of A-list celebrities. People around were whispering, "Kiko Z looks so pitiful, like she's been abandoned. Does this mean Sky Blue is a now?" See, that's how rich people are. They get tired of what they've played with, can't even be bothered to look at them again. In fact, although Ethan appeared to be blinded by lust and fickle, he was actually benefiting both influencers. For Sky Blue, a newcomer, what she lacked most was scandal. Being linked with a playboy like him in a romantic tale would make it hard for her not to become famous. After all, bad publicity is still publicity. 90% of an influencer's rise is built on shamelessness. Flirting with a rich man was nothing. As for Kiko Z, who is already incredibly famous, any public display of ambiguity would only lead to her being universally slammed online. That's why Ethan had been somewhat cold to her tonight, at most just putting an arm around her waist. They partied raucously until almost 2 in the morning. Ethan was about 70% drunk, and on top of that, the effort of keeping up the act all night had exhausted him. He seemed listless and decided to go to a hotel to rest. Just as he was leaving the bar with Sky on his arm, still joking with her, Ethan suddenly stopped dead in his tracks, staring at a familiar figure leaning against the bar entrance, Chloe Miller. The once glamorous star was wearing a woolen coat, her neck shrunk against the biting cold wind, looking somewhat desolate. Ethan, seeing the person she was waiting for finally emerge, Chloe walked towards him, smiling faintly. "I want to say a few words to you. Is it convenient?" Sky naturally recognized this major celebrity, though she didn't know this celebrity had now lost her halo. She timidly glanced at Ethan and whispered, "Mr. Vance, I'll wait for you nearby." Ethan nodded, removed his arm from Sky's waist, and asked Chloe, "What do you want to say?" "I'm in a hurry." Chloe pursed her lips, her beautiful face carrying a pure, natural smile. Abruptly, she said, "In just 2 short months, I almost don't recognize you anymore." Ethan could easily imagine Chloe's current situation. Given her temperament, she definitely wouldn't reconcile with Ryan Asher. The love she had pursued so devotedly had turned out to be an empty joy, and her career had been ruined by her own hands. Sigh, but it wasn't his place to pity her, much less to soften his heart. Calmly, he said, "If you want to talk about this nonsense, then it's really not convenient for me." Chloe was still smiling, seemingly trying hard to adopt a joking tone. "Hey, we were married once at least. Do you have to be like this?" "Hiv. All right. I came to find you. It's actually nothing important. I just wanted to apologize to you. Ethan, I've been thinking a lot these past few days. Honestly, I don't even know how I ended up like this. God clearly gave me a bright path, but I walked step by step into darkness. Heh, it's really pathetic, isn't it? But I don't regret it. There's no regret in pursuing what you like. It's just that what I pursued was an illusion. Ethan, yesterday I suddenly realized, isn't it the same between you and me? The heartache I experienced, haven't you felt it just as keenly? I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have been so selfish back then. Not loving you, but coveting your tenderness, your love. That was my own doing. Ethan lit a cigarette, a roguish smile on his face. Aren't you also responsible for your own fate? God is fair. Yeah. Chloe took a deep breath. After a moment of silence, she shrugged. All right, apology delivered, although I know you'll never forgive me. Forgiveness or not, it's meaningless. Then, can we hug? As a farewell. Farewell. Ethan had no intention of hugging her. He asked casually, where are you going? Chloe didn't lower her outstretched arms, smiling. I plan to sell the house, take my mom back to our hometown in the county. My savings plus the money from selling the house will be enough for us to live there for the rest of our lives. That sounded plausible. Celebrities, just by showing their faces, could earn what ordinary people in a small county might not make in a lifetime. A hug? Chloe asked again, her eyes full of expectation. However, Ethan merely said, take care, in a light tone, then brushed past his old acquaintance, his steps resolute, his expression even colder. Sky Blue quickly approached, her voice laced with concern. Mr. Vance, why don't you lie down? I can give you a massage. Ethan waved his hand, pointing to a bedroom. You go sleep. I need to rest alone for a bit. Don't disturb me. Sky looked somewhat anxious and uneasy. She stood there for a moment, then lowered her head slightly, biting her lip, her face flushed so red it looked like blood could be squeezed from it. She reached up and unbuttoned her coat. This demure yet alluring appearance was truly enough to make one's head spin and blood boil. Ethan couldn't help but feel a tickle of desire, but some unknown obsession managed to keep him in check even in this situation. He chuckled, said, I'm very tired, then, feigning drunkenness, walked towards another bedroom. If his old man knew about this, he'd surely be heartbroken, cursing in his dreams. What a waste of God's gifts, shameful profligacy. Sky really couldn't understand. He had been so flirtatious with her at the bar, but now that she was offering herself, he suddenly seemed frigid. Could it be true, as other influencers in the company whispered, that he couldn't perform? All those nights of revelry must have taken their toll. Thinking this, the beauty felt a wave of disappointment and turned towards the other bedroom. However, after closing the door, her expression suddenly darkened. She pulled out a small, hidden phone from inside her coat and sent a text message. He didn't touch me. The reply came quickly. It's okay. Proceed according to the original plan. Sky put away the phone, stared blankly at the dark night outside the window for a while, then fumbled in her bag for a small makeup case. She sat down in a chair and began to apply makeup. At 5 a.m, Ethan once again woke up from a nightmare, drenched in sweat, his breathing rapid and heavy. The trauma buried deep within him for years had been unexpectedly stirred up. He probably wouldn't get a full night's sleep for a while. After catching his breath, Ethan took a cold shower. Just as he was about to go to the living room for a glass of water, he suddenly heard a knock on the door. Who is it? Police. Room check. At this hour? Police checking rooms? In a presidential suite at that? Ethan found it strange. After a moment's thought, he calmly went to open the door. Ethan Vance, right? Someone has reported that you sexually assaulted them, attempted rape, and subjected them to violent assault. Please cooperate with our investigation and come with us. Ethan looked bewildered. You must have the wrong person. Who would make such an outrageous claim? Do I look like I'm short on women? After a string of 3 questions, the heir shook his head nonchalantly, turned to look at the other bedrooms, unsure which one Sky was in, and called out, Sky, come out and vouch for me. The middle-aged detective leading the team snorted. Don't bother shouting. She's the one who reported you. It seems you still don't know, but the internet is flooded with news about you right now. Humph. Don't think you can do whatever you want just because you have a little money. Take him away. Ethan was completely stunned. Sky reported me. No more nonsense. Come with us quietly. You're a person of some standing. Don't force us to use restraints. Ethan found it utterly absurd but quickly calmed down. It was clear someone was trying to frame him. Whose doing was it? Ryan Asher and Mr. King pulling strings behind the scenes? Or was Sky orchestrating this herself, trying to play the victim to gain notoriety? After all, as an influencer, there was nothing she wouldn't do. But Ethan felt the girl didn't seem to have such deep schemes or courage. She was probably being used as a pawn. Therefore, he still leaned towards the first guess. Apart from those two idiots, he hadn't really provoked anyone else, had he? Thinking this, Ethan inexplicably calmed down, muttering to himself, "What's coming has finally arrived," while shaking his head with a smile. "Wait a minute, I need to get dressed. Why are you following me? Afraid I'll run? Really?" Half an hour later, the heir was taken to the North Precinct's detective squad. As he got out of the car, he happened to run into Eva Rostova, who had just arrived. Captain Rostova, one of the officers, greeted her. "Hand him over to me." Eva locked her car, then unceremoniously grabbed Ethan's collar. "What kind of stunt are you pulling now?" Ethan looked innocent, lazily saying, "Sweet cousin, take me inside for some tea first. I'm parched." Eva kicked him lightly on the ankle, then dragged her scoundrel of a cousin into the building. As they walked towards the interrogation room, she said, "Can't you just stay out of trouble? A few days ago, you dragged Port Sterling University through the mud, and now you pull this." Ethan, with a cavalier attitude, "PSU deserved it. As for me, I'm being framed. Rape, hitting women, do you really think I'd do something like that?" Eva glared at him. "Cut the crap. Ethan Vance, do you even realize how much trouble you're in?" Ethan shrugged, casually sitting down in the interrogation chair, a roguish smile on his face. "This little thing, you call this trouble?" Eva rolled her eyes. It seemed this idiot really didn't know. She took out her phone, opened a social media platform, and showed him a video of Sky Blue holding her ID, tearfully recording her accusation. "Hello everyone, I'm Sky Blue. I'm reporting, under my real name, that Ethan Vance, the owner of Elysian Media, used his position and the exorbitant penalty clause in the contract I signed with him to coerce me. He sexually harassed me multiple times at the company. Last night, he forced me to drink with him, then coerced me to go to a hotel, intending to assault me. I lied and said I was on my period and it wasn't convenient, hoping he would let me go, but instead he beat me." Ethan found these statements laughable, but what was strange was that he hadn't laid a finger on Sky. Yet Sky's face was bruised. Her neck showed clear marks of being choked. This made him wonder, is she really that good at acting? Eva swiped up on the video, showing similar ones. "Look, besides this Sky Blue, there are other influencers reporting you. These are all women you've been rumored to be involved with." Ethan scrolled through them, all accusations from female influencers and all employees of Elysian Media's influencer hub. What surprised him even more was that Kiko Z, the top influencer of the hub, was also holding her ID, tearfully accusing him, claiming she had been harassed by him multiple times, even stalked, and so on, making one's skin crawl. Quite the operation. "Someone's lit a fire in my own backyard." Ethan remained calm. However, Eva's next sentence made him lose his composure entirely. "Your ex-wife jumped to her death. The medical examiner is performing an autopsy right now. Someone online leaked your divorce certificate with her. And her mother is also accusing you online, saying you drove Chloe Miller to her death." Ethan's gaze froze, the lazy smile and indifferent expression on his face instantly vanishing. He recalled the meeting with Chloe around 2 in the morning. She had clearly seemed to have let go of the past, and had even said she was going back to her hometown to enjoy life. How could she suddenly jump? No, something's not right. Ethan slammed his hand on the table, his eyes sinister. "I want to see my lawyer." "Ethan Vance, first, you need to answer some questions." "I said, I want to see my lawyer." Eva Vance took the tablet. After a few seconds, her brow furrowed. "You can head out." Once the officer left, Detective Vance placed the tablet in front of Ethan. Her voice was cold. "See for yourself." The video was from the hotel hallway security camera, time-stamped 2:50 a.m. Sky Blue was tiptoeing out of her room, poking her head out to check the hallway, then glancing back inside. Her expression and movements suggested she was terrified of disturbing whoever was in the room. After slipping out, the influencer gently closed the door, then ran frantically towards the elevator, jabbing the button repeatedly, as if scared someone would chase her. Ethan saw clearly that Sky already had injuries on her face when she left the room. "What in the hell?" Ethan muttered, rewinding the footage to 2:10 a.m. That was when he and Sky had just entered the room. Back then, the influencer's face was unmarked. A mere 40 minutes. Ethan fast-forwarded through it. No one else had entered the room. Sky hadn't left, and the room was on the 27th floor. No one could have climbed in through the window. Eva said grimly, "A normal person would find it hard to inflict injuries like that on themselves, especially a woman. And even if she could, the distribution of wounds on her face and neck. She couldn't have done that to herself." Ethan was thoughtful. "So it's a done deal." "I beat her up." "From the looks of it, yes." "Ethan Vance, I need you to tell me what happened after you two entered that room." Ethan sighed. "You don't have conclusive proof right now. So, Until my lawyer gets here, I have the right to remain silent. Eva slammed her hand on the table. Ethan Vance. Cooperate, damn it. My dear sister, Ethan said with a wry smile. Why do you always act like you've got this massive grudge against me, huh? Truth is, you still care, don't you? Otherwise, what time is it? You rushed into work. Don't tell me it wasn't because you were worried about me. We share a father, after all. No need to be so indirect about it. Don't you dare get slick with me. Eva glared at him, then paused, her tone softening slightly despite herself. You might be a scoundrel, but I know you wouldn't do something like this. You need to tell me what happened. I'll clear your name. Ethan spread his hands. I was drunk. Don't remember a thing. Eva easily guessed his intentions. Ethan Vance, you're planning to handle this your own way again, aren't you? Ethan offered a faint smile, silent for a moment before answering obliquely. Deputy squad leader now, huh? Still haven't managed to curb that temper of yours? Look at you, all flustered, rushed out without even putting on makeup. Were you afraid I'd murder these influencers? Please, I'm a law-abiding citizen. I wouldn't. He stopped mid-sentence, a sudden thought striking him. Eva's eyes lit up too. They looked at each other. It seemed they'd both latched onto the same thing. Makeup. Officer Peterson. Eva strode to the interrogation room door and called out to an officer in the hallway. Where's the complainant now? At home. Her family claims she's severely traumatized, mentally unstable, and refuses to let her meet with us. Eva made an instant decision. Take a doctor to her house. Tell the family the suspect is in custody. We need her official medical report for the injuries, or we can't press charges. Move. Returning to the interrogation room, Eva's expression was grave. This Sky Blue posted her accusation video around 3:30 a.m. and reported it to the police at 4 a.m. The other influencers mostly backed her up between 4 o'clock and 4:30 a.m. None of them were sleeping at that hour. It's obvious someone is pulling the strings. Ethan Vance, who have you pissed off this time? Ethan drawled. There's always some rogue plotting against the king. Hard to guard against it all. Eva knew she wouldn't easily get out of him. She also knew her duplicitous half-brother would resort to his own methods for revenge. She warned, you're not just being accused by these influencers. You're also implicated in a homicide. Based on current information, I have the right to detain you for 72 hours. Even when that time is up, I'll find a way to keep you here. Furthermore, the entire internet is watching these influencers. If anything, and I mean anything, happens to them, public opinion will crucify you and maybe even the entire Vance family. If you do anything reckless, it'll only backfire. I advise you to cooperate with me. The law will give you justice. Ethan pursed his lips. I'll discuss your so-called law with my lawyer later. I'm not interested. Sis, can you tell me what time Chloe Miller jumped? Eva's lips thinned. No point talking to a brick wall. But regarding Chloe, she'd only just arrived and had only heard a brief report from her team on the way. She wasn't clear on the specifics, so she called the officer on duty back in. The officer reported, according to eyewitness testimony and the medical examiner's preliminary findings, it was around 3:20 a.m. Eyewitness. Ethan and Eva said in unison. Yes. The officer flipped through his notes. Name's Ryan Asher. He was at the scene when it happened. According to Ryan Asher, Ethan's brow tightened. Eva glanced at him, then told the officer, continue. According to him, he and the deceased, Chloe Miller, were in a relationship. He was at Chloe Miller's place all last night. Chloe Miller went out around 12:30 a.m. and returned around 2:40 a.m. She was crying incessantly when she got back. He was comforting her. They were drinking together. Later, he went to the restroom. When he came out, he saw Chloe on the balcony preparing to jump. He rushed over and only managed to grab her hand, but ultimately couldn't pull her up. According to his statement, Chloe had told him personally that she went out to meet her ex-husband, which is him. The officer pointed at Ethan. The incident started because Ethan Vance was using an exorbitant contract termination fee to try and shelve her. She went to see Ethan Vance to beg him to let her go, but Ethan Vance made a demand. She had to accompany a big boss on a 1-month trip to the Maldives, and then he let her off the hook. Ethan's eyes turned icy. What about Chloe's mother? Didn't she see Chloe commit suicide? The officer glanced up, thinking, are you the cop or am I? Sounds like I'm reporting to you. Used to being the boss, huh? Don't you see where you are? But seeing his own captain also looking at him expectantly, he didn't press the issue. According to Mrs. Miller's statement, around 9 p.m. last night, she overheard Chloe contacting a realtor, planning to sell the house. They argued about it. Later, she contacted Ryan Asher, hoping he could talk some sense into Chloe. After Ryan Asher arrived, worried the mother and daughter would argue again, he gave Mrs. Miller the keys to his place, and she went there. She didn't find out about her daughter until 4 a.m. Ethan pressed his lips together, a grim understanding dawning in his eyes. Eva's face was dark. "Where's Ryan Asher now?" the officer replied, overcome with grief. He fainted halfway through giving his statement. "He's at the hospital now." Pausing, the officer leaned in and whispered to Eva, "We suspect Ryan Asher might be involved too. A couple of our guys are at the hospital, keeping an eye on him." Eva acknowledged. "When business hours start, have someone go to Chloe's company and check things out." After the officer left, Eva looked at Ethan. "Still not going to say anything?" Ethan took a breath, his voice heavy. "I need to make a phone call. Against regulations. Just a family. Help me out. I'm worried my wife might be in danger." Having had a bit too much to drink the night before, Isabel Thorne was sleeping soundly. The phone on her nightstand rang for a long time before finally waking her. She picked it up. The call was from Wendy. So early, could something be wrong? The thought instantly sobered her, and she answered. "Ms. Thorne, have you seen the news online about Mr. Vance?" "Mr. Vance? What's happened now?" When he sounded frantic. "An influencer is accusing him of sexual assault and claims he beat her. Over a dozen influencers from the hub are publicly supporting her." Isabel was still processing when Wendy dropped another bombshell. Chloe Miller jumped from a building. Now, her mother is also accusing Mr. Vance online. Isabel's composure shattered. "Notify everyone at department head level and above. Emergency meeting at the office, 7 o'clock. Hanging up, the CEO's mind reeled. She was about to call Ethan when, coincidentally, the scoundrel himself called her. "Is he up so early? What on earth is going on?" They both spoke at almost the same time. Ethan chuckled. "Sounds like you already know. I thought you'd still be asleep. Izzy, listen to me. Call Bruno in a bit. Have him pick you up. From now on, take him with you wherever you go, understand?" Isabel suddenly remembered the day Ryan Asher had treated them to dinner. On the way back, Ethan had said something similar, wanting Bruno to be her driver and bodyguard, worried that Mr. King and Ryan Asher were up to no good. It seemed those two had really made a move against Ethan. "What can I do?" Isabel forced herself to remain calm. "Let me think." Ethan mused. "Get up now, warm up a glass of milk. Your stomach isn't great." Isabel was speechless. "Now is not the time for this." "Ethan, I'm not joking, and please, don't you joke either. This is serious." Ethan's tone remained light. "It's okay, I'll handle it. You just go to work as usual. The company will probably be very busy today. Once this is over, I'll treat you to a big dinner as compensation. No refusals allowed. Where are you now?" Isabel faintly heard someone call out "Captain" in the background. Her heart clenched. Ethan laughed. "At the precinct, cooperating with the investigation." "It's fine." Isabel was silent for a moment. "Ethan, I believe you. You wouldn't do those things. Make sure you cooperate fully." I'll listen to you." Hanging up, Ethan handed the phone back, a rather bright smile on his face. Eva Vance shot him a look. "Seems you two are getting along well. Want me to introduce you sometime?" Ethan offered. "Not interested." About 10 minutes later, Mr. Albright, the head of Elysian Media's legal department, finally arrived at the detective squad. After getting briefed by the police, he went to see Ethan. "Mr. Vance, how long until you can get me out?" Ethan asked. Albright looked troubled. "You're a prime suspect right now. I'm afraid. It won't be easy." Ethan took a deep breath. He figured Albright didn't have that kind of pull, and besides, Eva would undoubtedly try every trick in the book to keep him here. Using connections to get out would be incredibly difficult. After a moment's thought, he said to Albright, "Listen carefully. When you get back to the company, find Mr. Quinn in the tech department. Tell him to investigate the head of the influencer hub. He'll know what to do. If you run into any problems, have him explain it to you. Only you, as my lawyer, can see me. Understand?" Albright easily understood that his boss likely never hoped he could get him out. Calling him here was just to make him a messenger. "I understand, Mr. Vance." "Good. Remember, everything must be kept confidential. Don't even tell Ms. Thorne." "I understand." 7 a.m. The city was slowly waking up. The news about Ethan Vance continued to escalate, trending sharply upwards. A few officers, out on investigation, returned to the precinct. They brought security footage from outside Inferno. The footage showed Chloe Miller and Ethan Vance meeting at 1:50 a.m. Due to the distance, the audio wasn't captured, but from the video, Ethan seemed dismissive of Chloe. After Ethan left, Chloe squatted on the ground and cried for several minutes. The two officers who had gone to Sky Blue's house also returned, carrying a medical report signed by a doctor. The final result: injuries confirmed, constituting minor assault. Ethan wasn't surprised by this. It wasn't hard to figure out. Sky Blue initially faked her injuries with makeup to leave evidence on camera, Then, after leaving the hotel, made the injuries real to avoid being exposed during a police medical examination. This girl, she's quite dedicated, Ethan said with a grimace. Eva didn't doubt her half-brother's character, but all current evidence was against Ethan. The situation was spiraling out of control towards the worst-case scenario, which inevitably worried her. Just then, Mrs. Miller arrived at the detective squad with a large group of reporters. She held up a sign reading, "Give me back my daughter," in large letters, knelt at the precinct entrance and wailed. "This Ethan Vance isn't human. Our Chloe was scammed by him, used and abandoned. Not only that, he forced my girl to sell her house to pay some ridiculous contract penalty, even forced my daughter to sleep with someone else. Woohoo, my daughter was driven to her death by him. Heavens, open your eyes. Can rich people just do whatever they want? My daughter, she can't rest in peace." Whether her words were true or not, the grief of a mother who had lost her child was undeniably real, moving everyone present. The situation had escalated into a massive scandal, with multiple media outlets already scrambling to report it. At Elysian Media, after the emergency meeting, Isabel Thorne kept Mr. Albright and Mr. Henderson, the head of administration. "You two, come with me to the influencer hub. Notify security, they must be vigilant. Don't let a single reporter in. Wendy, call the head of the influencer hub again. Hurry him up." "Ms. Thorne, I just called several times. No answer." Mr. Albright subconsciously glanced towards the tech department head's office, his brow slightly furrowed. He had called Mr. Quinn, the head of tech, after leaving the precinct to relay Ethan's message. It was already 7:30 a.m. Why wasn't he here yet? Couldn't he be more reliable? He had no idea that the blonde, blue-eyed foreign director was currently downstairs from the Influencer Hub head's apartment building. And inside that man's apartment stood an expressionless Korean man. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The phone on the coffee table vibrated incessantly. Finn glanced at the caller ID, CEO's assistant, picked up the phone, slipped it into his pocket, and walked out the door. Downstairs, in a royal blue GTR, Jax sat grim-faced in the passenger seat, a laptop open on his lap. His hands flew across the keyboard, screens flickering between the live streams of several influencers currently denouncing Ethan Vance. A red progress bar at the bottom of his screen advanced rapidly. When it reached the end, a map would pop up, coordinates detailed down to the apartment number. After recording a few locations, the genius hacker, who at 15 had broken into Citibank's headquarters and provocatively transferred only $1, closed his laptop. Just as he was about to get out, he saw Finn striding towards him. "Where is he?" Jax lowered the window. Finn tossed the still vibrating phone into the car. "Not here. Just the phone. Looks like he really is a problem." Jax muttered, grabbing a data cable. He connected the influencer head's phone to his laptop. A few seconds later, he tossed the phone back to Finn. "Put it back." Finn touched the cross on his chest, his gaze dark as he stared at the American. Jax suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. He pursed his lips. "God, the boss said you all listen to me. You should understand that, right, my dear fourth brother?" Finn merely blinked, then turned and re-entered the building. Jax let out a long breath, a strange sense of having narrowly escaped death washing over him. Just then, Milo called. "Cops are all over Asher. Can't touch him. Boss had me looking at that King guy before. He's been real chummy with Ryan Asher lately. Should I go pay him a visit?" Jax considered. "Boss hasn't mentioned him yet. Better not to tip our hand. Let's sort out what's in front of us first, then see. Then send me a few of those influencer addresses you found." Milo sounded like he was ready to pick a few lucky winners to vent his frustration on. "Calm down. Now is not the time for reckless moves." Jax tried to dissuade him. "We need evidence to clear the boss, understand? If anything happens to those influencers, it'll only make things worse, you." Before he could finish, Milo hung up. Jax sighed. Is this team really so hard to manage? A moment later, Finn was back in the car. He glanced at Jax, who was furiously typing. "Can you find him?" "Not unless he's a robot and not made of flesh and blood. He left his phone at home. I can't track him." "Oh, damn it, his phone is completely wiped." Finn frowned. People rarely carry much cash these days. A phone is essential. Why would he forget it? Maybe he has another one. This one wasn't important. Just as Jax was speaking, Mr. Albright, Elysian's head of legal, called. "Mr. Quinn, when are you getting to the office?" Jax glanced at the time. "Don't rush me. I'm currently looking for that department head." "Oh, no need. The guy's at the police precinct right now with a bunch of influencers saying they're scared of Vance retaliation and are seeking protection. It's already been reported by journalists." "I mean, Mr. Quinn, can you please hurry? Mr. Vance is..." Jax hung up directly. He searched online for keywords, and numerous videos immediately popped up of the influencer hub head, Jean Tianliang, being interviewed at the precinct entrance. I am Jean Tianliang, head of Elysian Media's influencer incubation hub. I can responsibly tell everyone that the online accusations against Ethan Vance are all true. For over a month, Ethan Vance has been constantly harassing the influencers under him at the company. This kind of thing has become commonplace. But these influencers are young women, new to society, with no experience and no backing. Coupled with the astronomical contract penalties, they simply don't dare resist his harassment. It's shameful to say, but although I saw their suffering, I didn't dare speak out. In Port Sterling, who dares to provoke someone from the Vance family? I endured it again and again, but I never expected that my cowardice would lead these girls step by step into the abyss. They're all in their early 20s. When I saw the news about Sky Blue being assaulted this morning, my heart was truly breaking. I want to ask, how could he bring himself to do it? A grown man, hitting a woman, is he even human? Now that it's come to this, I'm not thinking about the consequences. I just want to get justice for these girls. Officers, we seek protection. You must help us. These girls are all terrified now, afraid that people from the Vance family will come after them. Please help us. A moment later, the police chief arrived, personally escorting Jean Tianliang's group and a wailing Mrs. Miller into the precinct building. We can't let this go on. Jax's expression was grim. Who is this director Jean colluding with? He wouldn't have the guts to do this on his own. Finn, sharp-eyed, rewound the video about 10 seconds and pointed at the screen. He's holding a phone. Jax looked frustrated. I get what you mean, but a hacker isn't God. I need to get my hands on his phone first, or at least know the number of this phone, to even try to hack into it. Finn gripped the cross on his chest, his eyes cold. Go to the precinct entrance and get him. Damn it. Who knows when he'll come out? It's obvious he went to the police station because he's afraid for his safety, the damn scumbag. As he spoke, Jax's eyes suddenly lit up. Maybe. I have a way to get his phone. Finn looked at him, puzzled. No, I have someone in mind. Quick Drive. 227 Bayside Drive. Air, please don't look at me like that. I don't mean to use you as a driver, I swear. By all that's holy, the sun and moon. What was it? Finn averted his gaze, started the car, and said dryly, Your Chinese is very good. Thanks. Jax, perhaps pleased by the killer's rare compliment, thanked him, then called Mr. Albright. Listen, anything that happens at the company regarding Mr. Vance, you tell me immediately. Keep your phone on. I could call you anytime. Albright on the other end agreed. Though he found this foreigner unreliable, he didn't dare question Mr. Vance's chosen man. At the influencer hub, Isabel Thorne and the two department heads, Mr. Albright and Mr. Henderson, sat in an empty office, stacks of contracts before each of them. Mr. Henderson, head of administration, spoke first. Ms. Thorne, I've looked through them. The contract terms are boilerplate, but the stipulated penalty clauses, they're extremely high. Mr. Albright, head of legal, added, these two, the penalties are exorbitant. And the signature lines all bear Mr. Vance's personal seal. Ms. Thorne, let me explain. Mr. Vance previously told me that influencer development carries certain risks, so he didn't want the hub to be too closely tied to Elysian. These contracts don't use Elysian's corporate stamp, nor were they reviewed by headquarters legal department. Isabel feigned composure, though her mind was in turmoil. She closed the contract in her hand, picked up her phone from the table, and continued to monitor public opinion. The netizens' outrage seemed unquenchable, as if tearing Ethan Vance to shreds wouldn't be enough. The verbal attacks were escalating. What girl would joke about her own reputation? Especially with so many girls bravely speaking out together. Seeing Chloe Miller's tragic experience reminds me of that K-pop star, Yun. The entertainment industry isn't above the law, and we don't have chables. Punish Ethan Vance severely. Money isn't a get-out-of-jail-free card. Isabel felt a profound sense of helplessness. Assaulting women, coercion, attempted sexual assault, forcing women into prostitution, driving his ex-wife to her death. Any one of these accusations was a death sentence online. Although none of these claims have been proven yet, for the netizens, the truth was already self-evident. Or perhaps, in a way, for online justice, the truth wasn't really important. The crucial point was that Chloe Miller's death lent more credibility to these accusations. The $30 million penalty was an undisputed fact. The rumors Mrs. Miller was spreading online, combined with previously exposed scandals in the entertainment industry, seemed entirely logical and easily gained public trust. Chloe had suffered too many blows recently. Making such an extreme choice seemed plausible. But why was Mrs. Miller lying? Isabel, though she had no fondness for Ethan Vance, had some understanding of the Playboy's character. She firmly believed he wouldn't do such things. Taking a step further, with Ethan's background, would he really need Chloe to accompany someone on a trip just to curry favor with them? This point puzzled Isabel. In fact, she still didn't know that Mrs. Miller's words all originated from Ryan Asher. But she had noticed a key point. All of this was cleverly strung together by the so-called exorbitant contract penalty. And even more coincidentally, it immediately followed Chloe's attempt to terminate her contract. It was as if these two events were pieces on the same chessboard. Who was the chess player? Mr. King and Ryan Asher? If it truly was Mr. King, known for his refined demeanor, but actually a master of disguise, what was his motive? And when did he start planning this? The CEO of a publicly listed company, not a shareholder, much less the owner. Where did he get the courage to go against the Van Cess? Or was there someone behind him? It seemed that to unearth the truth, the head of the influencer hub, who had now clearly turned traitor, was of paramount importance. Only by prying open his mouth could they find out who was behind him, and then, by following the trail, would there be hope of breaking the deadlock. But what was strange was that Victor Vance had remained quiet for so long as the situation escalated. Had the public outcry already affected the Vance family, making him hesitant to act, waiting for an opportunity? Ms. Thorne. When he rushed into the hub, Kimberly Frost posted a long article supporting Mr. Vance and is arguing with netizens. Isabel's brow tightened in anger. What is her agent doing? I made it crystal clear during the meeting that no artist is to get involved in this. Go. Tell her agent to figure it out himself. If he can't manage her by phone, he should go to her school. Also, tell the PR department not to make any moves, just observe. The CEO was furious. An artist from her own company supporting Ethan Vance at this critical juncture would only backfire, tantamount to pouring fuel on the fire. Mr. Henderson, standing by, looked apprehensive, thinking Kimberly's agent was in for serious trouble. He wondered who it was. Suddenly, something seemed to click. He murmured agent. Then his eyes lit up. Ms. Thorne, don't you think Chloe Miller's agent has been remarkably quiet? Isabel froze, realizing she had overlooked someone critically important. Chloe was still technically their artist. Was something like this happening? Why hadn't her agent contacted the company? Mr. Henderson continued. Ms. Thorne, Chloe's agent isn't one of our in-house agents, but her best friend, Maria. From what I know, they were very close. Chloe even came to the admin department personally to argue for Maria's bonus once. Now that Chloe is dead, her agent isn't contacting us, nor is she kicking Mr. Vance while he's down online. She's playing deaf and dumb. It doesn't make sense. Isabel pondered for a moment. Find her. Go now. Whatever the reason for this agent's silence, as Chloe's closest confidant, she would undoubtedly be useful. Meanwhile, at Phoenix Crest Manor, Victor Vance sipped his morning tea leisurely, watching the great earthquake unfold online. A stylishly dressed, attractive woman, his executive assistant, stood to one side, her expression slightly troubled. Chairman, are you still not going to make a move? Make a move. Victor glanced at her and chuckled. Against whom? Well, at the very least, we should try to get the young master out. Victor calmly took another sip of tea. What's the hurry? Let him spend some time with his sister. We'll just sit back quietly and see which big fish is stirring up these waves. The assistant frowned and sighed. I don't know who it could be, daring to target the young master like this. Humph. Victor snorted. The Ashers alone don't have the guts. Someone must have fanned the flames. Let these small fry make a bit more noise. The fiercer the storm, the better the show. Just as he finished speaking, the phone on the coffee table suddenly rang. Chairman, regulators are at the company. There are some problems with the project related to materials, very serious. People from the disciplinary committee are here too, saying they need to ask you some questions. And the Public Security Bureau, with an arrest warrant. More officials have arrived. I'll go check first and report back to you. Victor hung up the phone and said with a wry smile, so, after all this, they're coming for me? TSK, TSK. Then why mess with my son? If that little ancestor finds out, he'll skin me alive, won't he? AI. In the car, Ryan Asher, who had been inconsolable at the hospital, was now a completely different person, agitated and terrified. Dad, you animal. Preston Asher slapped him hard across the face. Look at the mess you've made. I really didn't mean to. It was her. Enough. Don't mention this again. Preston snapped, then dialed Mr. King. Still haven't found that agent? Mr. King replied, I've already contacted a hacker. We're working on pinpointing her location. Should have results soon. Chairman Asher, trust me, I work clean. I'll make sure she disappears completely. You went to great lengths to drag me into this. You better not screw it up, Preston said coldly. No, mister. King chuckled. The person behind me said you did well this morning. Once Victor Vance is dealt with, he'll meet with you. Preston was silent for a moment, then asked, Can you at least tell me who is behind you? Mister. King smacked his lips. Chairman Asher, it's not that I don't trust you. It's just, the time isn't right. Rest assured, his influence is vast, enough to ensure the Van Cess don't come after us. The car was silent. Ryan had heard every word. Seeing his father hang up, he asked timidly, Dad, what did you do this morning? Did you make a move against Victor Vance? Preston was furious. You idiot. You're just like your mother, not a brain in your head. You think this King fellow was after Ethan Vance? Oof. His target was Victor Vance from the start. All that talk about teaming up with you to get Ethan Vance was just to make me act. Preston sighed, staring at Mr. King's number on his phone screen, then cursed under his breath. I don't know who's behind this King, to know my connections and background so thoroughly. My private dealings with the Vance family's second branch have always been extremely discreet. And the head of the oversight team sent to Port Sterling recently, he's an old friend of mine from over 20 years ago. To avoid suspicion, I haven't even met him once yet. A chill ran down Ryan's spine. This King, he knows even that. Dad, I didn't even know. Forget you. Even your mother doesn't know. Preston snapped. If not for these things, why do you think King insisted on pulling me into this? Humph. Forget it. There's no turning back now. This morning, I contacted the Vance second branch. That old widow gave me a lot of dirt on Victor Vance. Smuggling, illegal bidding, tax evasion, bribery, money laundering. She couldn't report these things herself, so I did her a favor. But why didn't King contact the Vance second branch himself? Ryan asked, puzzled. I heard the Vance family is riddled with infighting. The first and second branches would probably jump at the chance to cooperate with someone to bring down Victor Vance, the head of the most powerful third branch, right? Was it necessary to drag us into this? Preston scoffed. You don't know shit. Old man Theodore Vance isn't dead yet. Internal family feuds are one thing. He won't interfere too much as long as it doesn't go too far. They're all his flesh and blood. But colluding with outsiders against your own family? That's a different story. The old widow from the second branch trusts me, and more importantly, she trusts my connections. I gave that dirt directly to the head of the oversight team, bypassing all the lower channels. No one will know who provided it, and Theodore Vance won't be able to trace it back to her. As for our Asher family, stay out of Ethan Vance's affairs. Although Victor Vance is fighting for his own survival now, and Ethan, his illegitimate son, isn't favored by the Van Cess, he still bears the Vance name. Old man Theodore won't just sit by and watch. Let the Van Cess deal with King. I want to see just how capable the person behind him really is. Ryan felt a wave of fear. So far, your actions against Victor Vance haven't been exposed, but I perjured myself at the police station. But King orchestrated all those accusations, so it shouldn't trace back to me, right? Preston glared at him icily. Scared now, are you? What were you doing earlier? Ryan trembled, a layer of sweat breaking out on his forehead. His face was pale. I didn't expect someone to die. He paused, then timidly looked up at his father. Dad, that agent. She just wants money. We can give it to her. We don't have to kill her, do we? Preston stared at his disappointing son, furious. When you killed Chloe, did you show this kind of compassion? I really didn't mean to. I'm telling you, Chloe's agent must die. Only dead people can keep secrets. I know, Dad. I'll do whatever you say. Meanwhile, at the police precinct, Jean Tianliang, the head of the influencer hub, was confronting Ethan Vance in the interrogation room, fabricating one accusation after another. The major influencers he had brought with him all chimed in, verbally tearing Ethan apart. Ethan appeared calm. He neither got agitated nor rebutted them. Instead, he asked Jean Tianliang, "What's your relationship with that Mr. King from the advertising agency?" A flicker of cunning crossed Jean Tianliang's eyes, but his face remained a mask of anger. Don't try to distract me with irrelevant nonsense. Ethan Vance, I'm not afraid of you. For these girls, I will fight you to the end and let everyone see your true colors. Ethan smiled faintly. Hey, you're going to such lengths to harm me. Have you really not thought about the consequences? Jean Tianliang pursed his lips and snorted, his expression seeming to say, You're finished. After adding a few more of Ethan's alleged crimes to the police report, The department head strode out of the interrogation room. Just as he reached the main office area, a young man with bleached blonde hair rushed over, shouting that he wanted to report a crime and accidentally bumped into him. Sorry. The blonde kid apologized profusely. What's going on with this precinct? Why are there so many people? Sorry, man. Jean Tianliang smiled magnanimously. No problem. A moment later, the blonde kid ran out of the precinct and up to a van. He pulled a phone from his pocket and tossed it through the window. This scruffy-looking kid was none other than the receptionist from the lounge at 227 Bayside Drive, the one Benny had nearly knocked unconscious. In the back of the van, Jax caught the phone and quickly connected it to his laptop. Less than 10 seconds later, he tossed the phone back out to the kid. Put it back, quick. Don't let him see you. Leo Bishop, one arm in a cast and a gap where a front tooth used to be, sat beside Jax, as docile as a child. Watching Jax's fingers fly across the keyboard, this burly man, who was considered a figure in the underworld, grinned obsequiously. Fifth brother, any other orders? My guys are multi-talented. Conning, swindling, stealing, we can do it all. Not right now. Jax replied distractedly, his eyes glued to the computer screen. Hit. Leo Bishop gave a fawning laugh. I knew it. Following you guys was the right move. Look at us, even stealing things from the police station. Wow. If word of this gets out, my reputation will soar. Jax shot him a sidelong glance. It's best if no one else knows about this, or you'll probably lose another tooth. I swear. Leo Bishop instinctively covered his mouth and dared not speak further. Last time, when Ethan Vance realized he had beaten up the wrong person, he hadn't been too harsh on Leo Bishop. Instead, he had generously offered compensation and warned him to stay away from Tina Chun. Unexpectedly, Leo Bishop had shown some sense, refusing the money and insisting he wanted to befriend Ethan Vance, claiming his men were capable of anything and to call on them if needed. At the time, Ethan had merely humored him, having Benny and Jax save his number, never imagining he would actually have any further dealings with such a person. He hadn't expected to use him so soon. Jax scrolled up. The first message was from this unknown number. He didn't touch me. Jean Tianliang had replied, doesn't matter. Continue with the original plan. 10 minutes later, the other party replied, I'm starting my makeup now. Weren't we supposed to accuse him of assault and sexual assault? But without his DNA, that claim isn't credible. Jean Tianliang, it's fine. Just do it. We'll change the narrative later. Just say he hit you because you wouldn't give in. A few minutes later, the other party replied, Can I not do this? Mister, Vance is a good person. I'll feel guilty for the rest of my life if I do this. Jean Tianliang, we're too far in. There's no turning back. You don't want those photos of yours appearing online, do you? Be a good girl. After this is done, I'll give you a large sum of money and destroy those photos. At 3 a.m., the other party sent a message. I'm out. Where are you? Looking at these messages, Jax quickly thought of one person, Sky Blue. I found the evidence. Jax clapped his hands excitedly and quickly looked up the phone number. However, when he saw the results on the screen, his smile froze. The ID linked to the number wasn't Sky Blue's, but that of a 70-year-old man from another state. Jax's heart sank. He quickly checked Jean Tianliang's number. The result was the same, another out-of-state burner. This meant the evidence was useless. He couldn't prove the chat log was between Sky Blue and Jean Tianliang. Damn it. Jax, refusing to give up, scrolled through other messages and call logs. The content was worthless, and all the numbers were out-of-state burners. Fuck. The usually composed American cursed, a rare outburst. As he was wondering what to do, Mr. Albright from Elysian's legal department called. Ms. Thorne is looking for Chloe Miller's agent. We haven't been able to find her. She's currently unreachable. Jax frowned, muttering, How did I forget about her? Hey, I need Sky Blue's information. Send it over to me. And this agent's too, including their emergency contacts. Quick. At the precinct, Eva Vance had been called into the chief's office. Due to conflict of interest concerns, she was temporarily removed from Ethan Vance's case. Everyone in the precinct knew this beautiful detective was impartial to a fault, but the media wouldn't care about that. If her relationship with Ethan Vance was exposed, and she was still fully in charge of his case, it would be extremely detrimental to the precinct. Though reluctant, Eva understood the chief's reasoning and agreed readily. Leaving the office, she first went to the tech department, then headed to the interrogation room. Ethan Vance, I can't officially see you anymore. I get it. Avoiding suspicion, Ethan said with a faint smile. Eva glanced at him. The influencer's accusations don't have any substantial evidence. They can only tarnish your reputation and affect your business. But Chloe Miller's death, all the current evidence points against you. We have the contract from your company, Ryan Asher's testimony, and these 2 videos. Eva took out her phone, played a surveillance video. It was from the dinner Ryan Asher had hosted previously. Ethan was seen smashing a teacup at Ryan, clearly saying, "I'll give you 2 days. 30 million. Not a cent less. Otherwise, Chloe Miller can forget about terminating her contract for the rest of her life." The second video showed the entire process of Ethan smashing a bottle over Ryan Asher's head. Watching the videos, Ethan couldn't help but press his tongue against his back molars. He figured that day, just out of the detention center, sleep-deprived for 3 days, he hadn't been thinking clearly, allowing Mr. King, that scoundrel, to get such leverage. Eva said, "These 2 videos were leaked just 10 minutes ago. Forget the netizens. Right now, even I think Chloe Miller was really driven to her death by you." Ethan looked thoughtful. "The thing is, even with this, they probably can't convict me. Were they really after going to all this trouble just to ruin my reputation and sacrifice a life for it? It's completely unnecessary. You need to tell me who is going to all this trouble." Eva leaned on the table, staring intently into Ethan's eyes. Ethan glanced at Mr. King, sitting in a corner in the video, shrugged, and said, "How would I know? If someone wants to harm me, they're not exactly going to give me a heads up, are they?" By now, Ethan was certain Mr. King was behind this, especially with these 2 videos surfacing. There wouldn't be surveillance cameras in a private dining room of a restaurant. Someone had clearly installed them beforehand. Such underhanded tactics didn't seem like Ryan Asher's style. He hadn't mentioned Mr. King to Jax earlier, not because he wasn't suspicious, but because he found Mr. King extremely odd. He had no feud with him. So why was King so determined to go after him? Did he have other motives? Or was there someone else behind him? In any case, it was best to observe the situation, not alert the enemy, and try to get himself out first. Then he could deal with Mr. King slowly, and perhaps even lure out a bigger fish. Eva took a breath, muttering, "Why isn't your father helping you this time?" Logically, this is a major incident, and it even implicates the Vance family's reputation. The Vance family lawyers should have been here by now. Victor Vance was being investigated by a joint task force under the direct command of the Oversight Committee. The news hadn't leaked at all. He was currently being interrogated by the Department of Justice. Neither Eva nor Ethan knew. Maybe he had another wild night and hasn't woken up yet. Ethan quipped, then asked, "How did the investigation at Chloe's place go? Didn't find any suspicious traces or any valuable evidence? For instance, what about her phone? Who did she contact before the incident? Did you check all that?" Eva glared at him. "You think you're more professional than us?" "Oomph. No suspicious traces at the scene. Her phone was smashed to pieces. All data unrecoverable. The tech department checked her number. No call records before the incident. Ethan Vance, I believe you're innocent, but others don't. You should cooperate. The lead detective, Captain Morrison, is taking over your case now." With that, the beautiful detective turned and left. Ethan Vance remained, lost in thought. Half an hour later, Sky Blue, dazed and slumped on her sofa, received a text message. "Come downstairs. Need to talk to you." The number wasn't saved, but she recognized it instantly. It was Jean Tianliang's. Sky Blue took a deep breath. The memory of Jean Tianliang's brutal assault on her that morning involuntarily flashing through her mind. Her body trembled. After calming herself for a moment, she put on a jacket, made an excuse to her mother, and left the house, her mind in a daze. However, when she got downstairs, she didn't see Jean Tianliang. Instead, she saw a handsome man with an expressionless face. The man looked at her with cold eyes, clenched his fist, and muttered, "Aishiba." In a fire escape, Finn pinned Sky Blue against the wall by her throat. She clawed at his wrists, her eyes rolling back. After Jax spoke, the poker-faced man finally loosened his grip, his eyes still icily fixed on Sky. Sky coughed violently. After a moment, she gasped for air, her eyes wide with terror as she looked at the 2 foreigners, her body trembling uncontrollably. "Hey, listen up," Jack said, fiddling with Sky's phone. He'd just sent a virus-laden text, let it sit for a few seconds, then deleted it before handing the phone back. "I hope you understand. Since we could find you here and trick you downstairs, it means we have plenty of ways to deal with you. But I know you're actually a good person, right? That's why we chose not to bother your family, and instead wanted to talk to you calmly. First, I apologize for my friend's rough behavior earlier. Then, I need you to help clear Mr. Vance's name, understand? You should know, Mr. Vance is very rich. As long as you can clear his name, just name your price, whatever you want. I promise, I'll meet your demands, okay?" Sky's face was a mess of bruises, her eyes fearful and timid. She looked utterly pitiful. Although the American's pronunciation was a little too smooth, a little too rehearsed, she understood him well enough. But now that she had embarked on this path of no return, could she really turn back? Besides, for her, this was never about money, but about that unspeakable, nightmarish, tragic experience that she would probably never be able to erase from her memory. Seeing her head bowed in silence, Jax continued earnestly, "Don't worry, we won't hold what you did before against you, as long as you can help us now. Or, you can tell me what's going on with your photos. Maybe I can help. I think you can probably guess. I'm a hacker. Destroying some data is very simple for me. Trust me, okay?" Sky bit her lip, looking extremely conflicted. Time ticked by. Jax forced himself to be patient. Finn continuously rubbed the cross on his chest. After a long while, Sky slowly raised her head, her voice trembling. I did frame Mr. Vance, but they—" Just as she started speaking, a security guard and a maintenance worker abruptly entered the stairwell, carrying a ladder, presumably to fix the voice-activated light. Seeing the bruises on Sky's face, the guard immediately became alert, instinctively stepping in front of her and asking Finn and Jax, "What are you two doing here?" Finn looked at Jax, a questioning glance. Jax opened his mouth, about to speak, when Sky said, "They're my friends." With that, Sky took the opportunity to walk out of the stairwell. She paused, then looked back and said, "You guys go back first. I need to calm down." Back in the car, Finn, without a word, pulled a gun from under the seat and was about to go back upstairs. "Hey, are you crazy?" Jax quickly grabbed him. Finn said calmly, "Force her to do it." "Jax, wait." The way she looked, it seemed like she was hesitating. "Listen to me, she can't get hurt, and we can't force her right now. Just let her calm down first. We have more important things to do. Find that agent." Finn looked up at the building. "Waiting creates variables. It won't, I guarantee it." Jax said confidently, "Her phone is hacked by me. I'll know immediately if there's any news. If she still doesn't want to help us, then we can use your method, okay?" Finn blinked, put the gun back in its place, and said nothing. They drove to the vicinity of the police precinct. On the way, Jax contacted Mr. Albright, Elysian's lawyer, who then relayed Ethan's current instructions to him. Albright was already out of the precinct when they met. Mr. Vance said not to force this Sky Blue. Try to get her to speak willingly, Albright reported. Also, he said to have someone called Milo watch him, Mr. King, and to be extremely careful not to be discovered. And also, keep a close eye on Ryan Asher. Chloe Miller's death was most likely his doing. Don't let him fall into police hands. Oh, right, Chloe Miller's agent. You absolutely must find her. Meanwhile, in Elysian Media's PR department, Isabel Thorne and several employees watched Kiko Z's tearful performance in her livestream, their faces grim. "Ethan Vance forcibly kissed me multiple times at the company, even cornered me in the restroom and tried to take off my clothes. He also forced me, more than once, to go drinking with him. Everyone, I've already been driven to depression by him. This is my depression diagnosis." Ms. Jenkins, the PR department manager, glanced lightly at Isabel Thorne, hesitated for a moment, then switched the live feed to a video. "Ms. Thorne, this is Kiko Z's selfie video from early this morning accusing Mr. Vance. It currently has over 40 million views. And this, Ms. Jenkins clicked on another video. It was secretly filmed footage of Ethan Vance at the bar, his arm around Sky Blue, looking extremely intimate, while Kiko Z sat nearby with a melancholic expression. At the time, everyone thought the famous influencer was just jealous, but now it had become powerful evidence that she was forced by Ethan Vance to accompany him for drinks. This influencer is playing the victim role to perfection, gaining a lot of sympathy. Her follower count has skyrocketed, already exceeding 20 million. Isabel Thorne took a deep breath, silent for a moment, then asked, "Still no sign of Chloe Miller's agent?" "No. The entire administrative department is looking for her now. Why the hell would she disappear like this?" Isabel muttered, then paused and said, "Assign more people. We absolutely must find her." Just as she finished speaking, an employee from the legal department knocked on the door. "Ms. Thor, Mr. King from the advertising agency had his assistant deliver a list of compensation demands, claiming that Elysian's crisis has greatly harmed their company and related partners' interests." Isabel cut him off coldly. "You guys deal with it for now. I don't have time for him." Isabel had long been mentally prepared for this. What was bound to come would eventually come. But she just couldn't understand what Mr. King was really after. After weighing her options, she couldn't hold back any longer and proactively called Victor Vance. However, Victor Vance was in no position to answer any calls. The business tycoon was currently in an interrogation room at the Department of Justice, undergoing round after round of questioning by unfamiliar faces. In fact, from a moment Victor Vance knew officials were coming for him, he had guessed that the Oversight Task Force had him in their sights. Otherwise, with his network in Port Sterling, how could he not have received any prior warning? Looking at the thick pile of criminal information about himself on the table, Victor Vance's usual composure was gone, but he didn't appear flustered either. No matter what the other party asked, his answers were invariably the same. How would I know? What's it to me? I've been cooperating with you all along. Finding Chloe Miller's agent, Maria, had been a tortuous process. Jax had called her countless times, but her phone was either off or the calls were rejected. It was clear she was trying to prevent anyone from finding her location, which also meant she definitely had some unspeakable secret. Just moments ago, the agent had finally answered a call. Although the call duration was kept under a minute, it still gave Jax an opening, just enough to pinpoint her location. Damn it, she's 30 kilometers away. Let's go. If she moves and turns off her phone, we'll lose her again. Finn slammed his foot on the gas, and the royal blue GTR shot forward. When they reached the target location, luckily, the agent hadn't moved. But the trouble was, another group had gotten there first. Right before their eyes, they dragged the agent into a van. Finn, without a word, swerved the GTR in front of the van, blocking it, then immediately opened his door and got out. Jax pursed his lips, showing no intention of getting out. Instead, he rested his chin on his hand, waiting patiently. About half a minute later, the sounds of fighting from behind them stopped abruptly. A moment later, the GTR's trunk opened, and the agent was shoved inside. Finn, his face spattered with blood, got back into the driver's seat. While driving away from the scene, he pulled out a few tissues and calmly wiped his face. Jax, unfazed by this, glanced at the map on his laptop screen. Follow the navigation. There's an abandoned building complex nearby. A few minutes later, the car drove into the overgrown, dilapidated building complex. Finn got out, dragged the agent from the trunk, and casually threw her onto the ground. The woman was now utterly terrified, looking at Finn as if he were a demon. A dark patch spread across her pants. Her face was drained of all color, and her body trembled violently. Due to extreme fear, her mouth gaped for a long time before she could utter a word. I'll give it. I'll give it. I don't want the money. I don't want it anymore. Jax, hit by the acrid smell of urine, instinctively glanced at the trunk, then covered his nose and mouth, muttering bitch under his breath. He frowned, picking up on the agent's words, and said curtly, "Give it to me." In truth, he had no idea what the agent was offering. Although they worked for the same company, they had never met. She probably mistook him for the other group. But it was just as well. A confession without coercion saved him a lot of trouble. The agent, trembling, took out her phone, found a video, and handed it over with both hands. I don't have a backup. This is the only copy. You guys let me go. I don't want the money, and I won't tell anyone. You have to believe me. Let me go. Jax pressed his lips together, took the phone, and played the video. His eyes immediately widened. After watching the entire video, he quickly took out his own phone and called Leo Bishop. Keep Ryan Asher under tight surveillance. Then he called Mr. Albright. We've got evidence of Ryan Asher committing murder. Ask Mr. Vance what to do next. Meanwhile, Ryan Asher, who had been summoned by the police an hour earlier, was now walking out of the precinct with Mrs. Miller. Mrs. Miller's eyes were red and swollen from crying. Leaning on Ryan Asher for support, she said in anguish, "Ryan, dear, you must help me make that animal Ethan Vance pay for what he did." Ryan Asher bit his lip, the tears welling in his eyes of questionable sincerity. He took a deep breath. "Auntie, don't worry. I will definitely get justice for Chloe. My daughter is gone, just like that. Woohoo. What am I going to do? My daughter. Woohoo." Just as Mrs. Miller was wailing, Ryan Asher's phone suddenly rang. Looking at the caller ID, Ryan Asher frowned, then excused himself to answer the call. However, it was unclear what the other person said, but Ryan Asher's eyes suddenly widened as if the sky had fallen. He no longer paid any attention to the old woman beside him. "Annie, I have something important to take care of. I have to go." With that, he rushed towards his Range Rover parked across the street. Mrs. Miller didn't know what had happened, but seeing Ryan Asher in such a hurry, she thought he must be busy with Chloe's case. Her heart ached even more, thinking how happy Chloe and Ryan would have been if this hadn't happened. With this thought, her hatred for Ethan Vance deepened. Ryan Asher got into his car. While starting the engine, he called Mr. King. "Is what he just said true? Did my dad know? What am I supposed to do now? Who the hell snatched her?" He completely failed to notice a black van tailing his car. About 40 minutes later, a blue GTR slowly approached Sky Blue's apartment building. The influencer was currently sitting slumped in front of her computer, looking at the threatening text messages from Jean Tianliang on her phone, while simultaneously replaying the words the foreign hacker had said to her that afternoon and Ethan Vance's rage for beauty and extreme gentleness from the previous night. That was fake. A playboy's gentleness is always convincingly fake and given so freely. But even if it was fake, it still managed to unsettle her. Why didn't he touch me? Is he really incapable? Sky Blue clearly remembered that Ethan Vance's eyes had shown no disgust towards her at the time, and his supposed headache was most likely faked. It's a good thing you didn't touch me, otherwise you really would be in jail. It seems like fate, Ethan Vance. You save yourself, huh? After a bitter laugh, Sky Blue took a deep breath, her eyes gradually becoming determined. She opened her streaming software. In the same manner as her previous live stream accusing Ethan Vance, she held up her ID card to the camera. Hello everyone, I'm Sky Blue. Thank you for your concern, but I'm sorry, Elite. Ethan Vance did not hit me. Everything you saw was a carefully orchestrated lie. The live stream quickly filled with people, who upon seeing this, began to voice their righteous opinions. Was she coerced by the Vance family? Oh my God, protect our Sky Blue. Facing these comments, Sky Blue immediately took out her phone and played a video for the camera. The video showed Jean Tianliang hitting her in a car. Although it was secretly filmed and the entire picture was blurry, Jean Tianliang's face flashed clearly several times, as did his words as he hit her. Just take it. Who told you to put on so much makeup in so many places? You brought this on yourself. Don't scream. Sky Blue, I'm warning you, if this gets out, we'll be in big trouble. You absolutely have to fool the police. Behave yourself, otherwise, I'll publish your photos online. After playing the video, Sky Blue took a deep breath, slowly closed her eyes, and said in a trembling voice, A month ago, I was drugged and raped by Jean Tianliang. He also took photos and videos of me. Framing Mr. Vance was something he threatened me into doing, using those photos and videos. Mr. Vance is truly innocent. The live stream went silent for a moment, then exploded. The comments completely covered the screen. Holy crap, what a plot twist. Folks, do you believe this? I don't. It's definitely the Vance family's tactics. At this moment, Sky Blue's mind suddenly relaxed. No matter what the future held, at least now, she was free from the condemnation of her conscience. Was this her own form of redemption? She didn't know. And what she knew even less was that her choice had just saved her life and her family's. The expressionless Korean man was currently standing at her door, a gun in his hand. When Jax's call came through, Finn was just about to raise his hand to knock. His movement froze mid-air. He slowly turned his head, his gaze fixing on the hallway security camera, as if meeting a pair of blue eyes on the other end. After a long moment, he reluctantly turned and walked away. In his view, Sky Blue didn't need to live. A couple of shots to make her cooperate, then a clean disappearance. Any witnesses would be taken care of along the way. Now that Chloe's agent, Maria, had been found, and with such explosive evidence in hand, Sky's fate was insignificant. All that mattered was getting the truth out of her. Consequences be damned. Besides, being threatened wasn't a valid excuse. Wrongdoing had its price. But Jax was calling the shots now. Orders were orders. At the precinct, Ethan went to the restroom, an officer waiting outside the door. A moment later, Jean Tianliang also entered, standing at a urinal one space away from Ethan, shooting the playboy a sidelong glance, a smirk playing at the corners of his eyes. Something funny? Ethan turned his head slightly, his smile roguish. Jean Tianliang's tone was sarcastic. Mr. Vance truly has extraordinary composure. A pariah now, yet you can still manage a smile. A smile keeps you young. Hey, I'm curious. Why go to all this trouble? My reputation is already terrible. Was it really necessary to go to such lengths to slander me? What do you mean, slander? Jean Tianliang slipped into character instantly. Dared to act, but not to admit it? Heh, Mr. Vance, you'll never be able to hold your head high in Port Sterling again. And your Elysian media? It's finished. The public's eyes are sharp, you know. All right. A wicked curve touched Ethan's lips. Hey, I'll ask you one more time. Have you thought about the consequences for yourself? Jean Tianliang's eyes were full of disdain. You should worry about yourself. Ethan nodded, paused, then suddenly chuckled. Director Jean, haven't you noticed that your phone hasn't received any calls for a very long time? Jean Tianliang's expression gradually froze. He realized that, starting about an hour ago, his phone hadn't rung once. Now that Ethan mentioned it, he feigned calmness, pulled out his phone, and glanced at it. Full signal bars. All functions seemed normal. Ethan sneered. Hey, don't say I didn't warn you. Run now. Any later, and you won't be able to walk out of this precinct. With that, he washed his hands and strolled out of the restroom. Jean Tianliang thought Ethan was just trying to scare him. His phone was perfectly fine. His backers hadn't contacted him because, 1, everything was going smoothly, and 2, they probably felt it was inconvenient to talk while he was at the police station. Little did he know that the phone he thought was fine was now nothing more than a rechargeable brick. All incoming calls were being intercepted by Jax. Jax hadn't immediately released the evidence from Maria because he wanted to see how Jean Tianliang's backers would react to Maria's abduction. At the same time, he could also see who was contacting Jean Tianliang and whether the rumor-mongering influencers had anyone else behind them besides Jean. Although it was now basically confirmed that Mr. King was pulling the strings, everyone involved in this incident, every single one of them, would not be spared. However, Jean Tianliang's backers were extremely cautious. After Maria was abducted, they had called immediately, but quickly realized Jean Tianliang's phone had been hacked. They hung up in less than 10 seconds. When Jax tried to call back, the phone was already off. Moreover, nearly an hour had passed since Maria's abduction, and no one had come to the precinct to find Jean Tianliang or inform him of this sudden development. Those influencers were still busy slinging mud, completely unaware of the disaster about to befall them. It seemed Jean Tianliang's backers, realizing he was being watched, had abandoned him. This also proved that those influencers only had Jean Tianliang as their handler. Leaving the restroom, perhaps unsettled by Ethan's words, Jean Tianliang took out his phone and randomly dialed one of the influencers. However, the screen showed it was dialing, but there was no sound from the earpiece. Jean Tianliang frowned, about to try another number, when one of the young influencers who had come to the precinct with him suddenly rushed over, her phone pointed at him, her voice trembling as she whispered, Director Jean, Sky Blue is live streaming. She said you raped her and threatened her to frame Mr. Vance. She even has evidence of you hitting her. That bitch, she had a backup plan against you from start. Jean Tianliang felt as if he'd been struck by lightning. His mind went blank for a moment. Then he instinctively looked towards the interrogation rooms. Ethan Vance's interrogation room was on the first floor at the end of the west hallway. The corridor was dimly lit. The playboy stood at the doorway, watching him. Like a malevolent spirit from a dark abyss, looking at a man about to die, a sinister smile playing on his lips. What should we do? Director Jean, Sky Blue won't sell us all out, will she? She's not in our group chat. Did you ever tell her that we colluded to frame Mr. Vance? Director Jean, say something. What should we do? What to do? Jean Tianliang had only one thought in his mind, run. At a time like this, who the hell cared what happened to them? Sky Blue, that damn bitch. I'll kill you. Running out of the precinct, Jean Tianliang tried to make calls as he ran, but just like before, it kept showing dialing and nothing else. Only then did he realize that his phone had probably been tampered with. But the phone had been on him the whole time. What kind of deity was powerful enough to cast a spell from a distance? As he was wondering, a van suddenly pulled up beside him. The driver was the young blonde kid. Get in. Jean Tianliang hesitated for a moment, wondering if his backers had sent someone to pick him up. The next moment, the rear door of the van opened, and a large hand suddenly shot out, grabbing his collar and yanking him cleanly into the vehicle. Leo Bishop, one arm in a cast, grabbed Jean Tianliang's hair with his other hand, a wide grin splitting his face, revealing the gap from his missing front tooth. You dog, Grandpa Leo has been waiting for you for a long time. With that, he grabbed Jean Tianliang's head and slammed it hard against his own knee. The unfortunate Director Jean, before he could even figure out who these people were, was dazed by the powerful blow. Then, another heavy punch landed on the back of his head, and he lost consciousness. In his last moments of awareness, he vaguely saw someone tied up in the back row, face bruised and mouth taped. It looked like that young master from the Asher family. Dry, Leo Bishop said with a chuckle, then called Jax. Fifth brother, got both of them. Where should I deliver them? Jax on the other end said, There's an abandoned building complex here, a very good place. I'll send you the location. Remember to change the license plates and switch cars midway. Don't let the police track you. You got it. Coming right over. Eva Vance was furious. Ignoring any concerns about appearances, she stormed into the main office area and began checking the security footage. Captain Vance, a tech officer, said, The main entrance camera seems to have a problem. It was stuck for about an hour, just came back online now, meaning it recorded nothing for an hour? I'll try. Captain, I can't recover it. There's no surveillance data for that 1 hour period. Eva's brow furrowed. Pull up all surrounding cameras. If he's not found, check every suspicious vehicle that passed the precinct entrance a minute ago. With that, she called over 2 nearby officers. Go bring this sky blue in. Just as she finished speaking, Captain Morrison, the precinct's lead detective, strode over, an apologetic look on his face. I've already sent someone. You're such a dynamo, can't sit still for a second. Go rest in your office. If Chief Harris sees you, you'll get another earful. Eva pouted. I wonder when His Holiness will finally leave. With him here, everyone in our squad is on edge. Captain Morrison chuckled, lowering his voice. This whole thing has blown up all over the city. Of course he's going to be here. Besides, he's also here to get some peace and quiet. The police maintaining order at the scene and the reporters swarming the entrance were a total zoo. Eva sighed lightly, then paused. Captain, can I see Ethan Vance? All right, but 2 minutes tops. Don't make things difficult for me. Eva nodded and went straight to the interrogation room. As soon as she saw Ethan, she got straight to the point. Ethan Vance, the surveillance cameras at the entrance were down. Was that your people? Ethan feigned ignorance. What are you talking about? Eva took a sharp breath. That influencer, Sky Blue, who accused you. She just recanted, turned the tables, and implicated Jean Tianliang, and with solid proof. Jean Tianliang just fled. Is he in your hands now? Ethan smiled and shook his head. My dear sister, why do you always manage to connect everything back to me? He obviously fled because he's guilty. Ethan Vance, I'm telling you again, don't do anything reckless. I'm just sitting right here. How can I do anything reckless? Eva's expression was a mixture of suspicion and doubt. After a moment of silence, she changed the subject. I've reviewed the information Chloe Miller's mother provided an hour ago. There are 2 main points. 1, you allegedly used violence to resolve your marital issues. And 2, you insulted and coerced Chloe into doing things severely against her will, thereby leading to her suicide. If the evidence for these 2 points holds up, you could be sentenced to less than 3 years. Ethan shrugged. What evidence could there be? Divorcing and remarrying on the same day. Does that count? Eva said gravely. It's not conclusive, but it can be considered evidence. The crucial thing is Mrs. Miller also submitted several photos of you and Isabel Thorne getting married. At that time, you hadn't yet divorced Chloe Miller. Ethan calmly sipped his tea, wondering which bastard had nothing better to do than take random photos. As for how they ended up in Mrs. Miller's hands, that wasn't hard to guess. It had to be the Ashers. But now, what significance could this so-called evidence possibly have? Ethan smiled faintly. The real show is still to come, you know. Who says Chloe Miller definitely committed suicide? Eva frowned, staring at Ethan for a moment. A bad premonition suddenly gripped her. She hurried out of the interrogation room and said to Captain Morrison, Get Ryan Asher back here. Use any reason, but do not let him out of our sight. Quick. Meanwhile, Preston Asher was the one in the deepest panic. He'd finally located the agent, Maria, only for her to be snatched by 2 unidentified individuals. Most critically, his son, Ryan, had gone missing right after Maria was abducted. Right now, the old man's blood pressure was about to hit the roof. He was on the phone with Mr. King, fuming. Still no sign of Ryan? No. His car was found parked on the side of South Loop Road, but he's not there. The men I sent told me there were no signs of a struggle at the scene. Could it be he got scared and is hiding somewhere? Impossible. I explicitly told him to go to the pier. I had a yacht waiting for him. Mr. King sounded impatient. Then I really don't know. Maybe we should wait a bit longer. Right now, the most important thing is to nail Victor Vance. Don't lose your composure over this. Mr. King, you're being completely unreasonable. Who asked your son to be so stupid as to leave behind such evidence? Oof, I haven't even blamed you yet. Preston Asher knew this wasn't the time to get angry. After calming himself down, he said, Mr. King, could you please ask your superior to help out? Help me find my son, please. I'd be very grateful. Mr. King took a breath. I'll mention it. Then he hung up. Preston Asher was seething. He called his driver and roared, Get more men out there to search. I don't care what methods you use. You absolutely must find Ryan for me. He really couldn't understand who had taken Ryan. But it wasn't hard to guess they were connected to the people who had abducted Maria. The Vance family was currently fully occupied with Victor Vance's situation. Even if they had spare capacity to deal with Ethan Vance, they wouldn't have been able to track down that agent so quickly, would they? Besides, if the Vance family made any significant moves, the old widow from the second branch would have tipped him off in time. But so far, he hadn't received any news that Theodore Vance intended to get involved with Ethan. If it wasn't the Vance family, then who could it be? Elysian Media? They probably didn't have that kind of capability. He even considered the police. After all, it had been an hour since Maria was abducted. Although there was no news online yet, the evidence might have already been handed over to them. But inquiries through his connections revealed that his son wasn't in police custody either. He would never have guessed that Ethan Vance had such capable, loyal brothers in arms. And he couldn't even begin to imagine what kind of miserable fate his son was currently enduring. Jack slouched on a step, laptop balanced on his knees, editing the evidence he'd gotten from Maria. Not far off, Maria herself was hogtied, initially quiet against the wall. But the moment she saw Finn return, raw terror flooded her eyes. Clearly, Finn's deadly precision during her acquisition had left a deep psychological scar. The poker-faced operative glanced at her, then his gaze swept over Ryan Asher and Jean Tianliang before he strode toward Jax. Why isn't the evidence public yet? Jax grinned. Hang on a sec. Okay, done. Downloaded a live streaming app. She's gonna do a little number, just like Sky Blue. Oh god, the internet's gonna break today. I guarantee it, huh? Time to reel him in. The counterattack begins. Finn wasted no words. In 2 strides, he was in front of Maria. Cooperate. Understand. Maria nodded frantically. Understand. I understand. Nearby, Ryan Asher, his mouth sealed with duct tape, had despair wash over his face the instant he saw Maria. He didn't know who these people were, but they had to be Vance family muscle, right? Definitely. He'd seen that guy with the laptop once before at Kevin Chin's roadside grill, right next to Ethan Vance. Though his chances of survival felt non-existent, Ryan instinctively tried to beg for mercy, but only muffled whimpers escaped. Dad, hurry up and save me, he prayed. Compared to him, Jean Tianliang, who had just regained consciousness, was far more defiant. He launched into a tirade against Leo Bishop and his men, boasting about his connections, how he pulled strings on both sides of the law, a whole stream of garbage. Finn untied Maria's ropes, then turned to the still ranting Jean Tianliang. After a calm blink, he walked towards the GTR. 2 of Leo Bishop's thugs muttered to each other, eyeing the unassuming killing machine. Don't think I've seen this guy before, have you? Doesn't look like much, does he? All quiet and proper, just good-looking, probably useless. As they spoke, Finn opened the trunk, pulled out a sledgehammer, and dragged it across the ground toward Jean Tianliang. Jax's eyelids twitched. Hey, Finn, where'd you get the sledgehammer? Finn spared him a glance. Bought it on the way. Figured it might come in handy today. Jesus Christ. Jax shook his head, then looked at Maria. I think you should close your eyes and cover your ears. Otherwise, you'll have nightmares, I swear. Maria, trembling, quickly complied. Jean Tianliang, hands tied behind his back, lay on his side, glaring up at Finn. Don't you fucking try to scare me. I've got balls of steel. Go on, kill me if you've got the guts. If you don't fucking kill me, I'll... Before he could finish, Finn swung the sledgehammer, bringing it down hard on Jin's chest. Thud, thud, thud. 3 consecutive blows. Jean Tianliang coughed up a torrent of blood, his eyes rolling back as he started to black out. Finn stated calmly, You're noisy. Then, he delivered another strike, knocking Jean unconscious. Ryan Asher, witnessing this, was undoubtedly scared shitless. How could he dare make another sound? He trembled uncontrollably, not even daring to look at Finn. Leo Bishop and his men were also badly shaken, their faces masks of terror and cowardice. As standard lowlifes, fights were commonplace, but who went at it like this? This was clearly an attempt to kill. Finn looked at them, raised a hand in a shush gesture, dropped the sledgehammer, and walked over to Maria. Begin. 5 minutes later, at the detective squad, Eva Vance once again stormed into the interrogation room. After dismissing the officers present, she confronted Ethan. Where is Ryan Asher? Ethan offered a faint smile, then stood up, stretching. Looks like I'm free to go. Ethan Vance. Is Ryan Asher with you? He's not my son. Why are you asking me? Ethan said calmly. Detective Vance, am I, perhaps, free to leave now? Eva clenched her fists, her voice icy. Do you have to be like this? Ethan spread his hands. I was framed. You're not chasing the real killer. So what are you doing talking to me here? Just then, a lawyer knocked. Hello, Detective Vance. I believe Mr. Vance is free to go now. He's been cooperating since 5 this morning. The truth is out. The evidence is all over the internet. Your department can investigate it yourselves. It has nothing to do with Mr. Vance. Eva stared hard at Ethan for a long moment, then turned and walked out. She truly didn't want to see her brother go completely down this dark path. Once out of the precinct and in his car, Ethan immediately took out his phone and opened Chloe Miller's agent Maria's live stream. Maria was already on her second pass of the statement. Every word I'm saying is true. You all don't know, Ethan Vance used to love Chloe Miller deeply. He pursued her for a long time before she finally agreed. But back then, Chloe only had eyes for Ryan Asher, who was abroad. So she was always cold to Ethan. Later, Ryan returned, and Chloe dumped Ethan. Despite this, Ethan never retaliated. On the contrary, he always tolerated her antics. But recently, Chloe found out Ryan had been lying to her. He hadn't gone abroad for treatment, but for another woman. So, Chloe decisively broke up with him. Last night, with Mrs. Miller's help, Ryan shamelessly stayed at Chloe's house. Chloe wanted to make a clean break, so she suggested they have some drinks, part amicably, and pretend they never knew each other afterward. At 3:10 a.m., Ryan was drunk and asleep on the living room sofa. Chloe came out to the balcony and video called me, crying, saying she'd reaped what she sowed, missing out on a great man like Ethan and treating someone like Ryan as a treasure. Unexpectedly, Ryan overheard our conversation. He was very drunk, like a madman, yelling at Chloe, asking why she betrayed him, why she liked Ethan and not him. Things like that. I kept trying to calm him down, but he cursed at me, saying I was trying to drive a wedge between him and Chloe. I was so angry, I started screen recording, thinking if Chloe ever got back with Ryan, I'd show it to her to remind her to stay away from that scumbag. Later, they were pushing each other, and in a moment of carelessness, he pushed Chloe off the balcony. The phone was in her hand at the time. I saw it clearly. At first, Ryan grabbed her hand, but then, the tragedy still happened. Look, this is what I recorded last night. Watching all this, Ethan's mood grew heavy. In the video, Chloe's helplessness was heart-wrenching. Though the footage was shaky and unstable due to their constant struggling, because the phone was in Chloe's hand, her face flashed into view from time to time. Initially, her face showed terror, as if she couldn't believe Ryan would actually get violent in a drunken rage. Then, her expression gradually turned to anger, shouting at Ryan to let her go. After that, it was impatience mixed with a great deal of disappointment. To have loved only one person her entire life, only to find out he was such an unworthy piece of trash. Finally, the delicate hand grasped by Ryan seemed to let go on its own. In the moment of her fall, a frame flashed by. She was smiling, and she was crying. Everything in this world happens for a reason. Ethan put away his phone, his expression unreadable. After a pause, he called Jax. Send me the location. So-called farewells often don't require grand ceremonies, warm embraces, or heartfelt goodbyes. Most separations in life are silent. Perhaps one day, a casual encounter turns out to be the last. Elysian Media. Isabel Thorne was personally overseeing the PR department, directing a flurry of activity. Draft a few clarification statements and distribute them to all the agents. Except for artists with major endorsement deals, all other artists must repost, especially the new ones. It's best if they post multiple messages supporting Mr. Vance. Artists with major endorsements had to be cautious. Many online trolls lacked any sense of right or wrong. Even though Ethan Vance had now been proven innocent, those types would still use their own dirty and narrow-minded thinking to speculate about the matter, potentially causing negative repercussions for brands. It was a ripple effect, not worth risking. But for new talent, there was no such concern. They just needed to support their boss. Furthermore, this was a rare, trending topic, undoubtedly an excellent opportunity to increase exposure. A win-win. However, the typically cool-headed CEO couldn't quite figure it out. The situation was about to reach its worst point for Ethan. So why did Sky Blue suddenly flip? And Chloe's agent, Maria, Isabel had been looking for her for so long. It was like she'd vanished into thin air. How did she suddenly appear online and clear Ethan's name? If she wanted justice for Chloe, why not go to the police immediately? None of it seemed normal. Still, whatever messy details lay beneath, Ethan being okay was the best news possible. Ms. Thorne, more good news. Ms. Jenkins, head of PR, hurried over with a tablet, beaming. Look, those influencers who accused Mr. Vance are starting to turn on each other. A newcomer, signed just after the new year, just posted an apology video. She exposed Kiko Z in a group chat they had with others from the Influencer Hub. The chat logs are incredible, a real eye-opener. In the video, the young influencer was sobbing, claiming she was new to the industry, didn't know anything, and had been coerced and bribed by Kiko Z and Jean Tianliang, the head of the Influencer Hub, into making a mistake. She begged netizens for a chance to reform. Isabel had no interest in watching such a hypocritical apology. What interested her were the leaked group chat logs. Kiko Z. Girls, Elysian's Influencer Hub is a total scam. You all saw the contracts, right? The penalty for breach is so high, we're doomed to be bled dry by them for life. I'm taking the lead this time, trying to get us all to jump ship. Mr. Gene has already found us a new home. It's a new platform, but it has deep backing and offers great benefits to employees. A certain influencer couple. I support Kiko Z. Her popularity is so high now, but more than half of her hard-earned monthly income is taken by the hub. Our future will only be worse. Kiko Z. Mr. Gene and I are about to make our move. Everyone, stay sharp. Just follow the script. Don't be afraid. Even if something goes wrong, a lesion will at most come after a top influencer like me. It won't affect you. A certain influencer couple. My script was written by my husband. It says Ethan Vance harassed me right in front of him. Huh? Another influencer. I'm just saying he forcibly kissed me. Kiko Z. My script is that he cornered me in the bathroom and sexually harassed me, then stalked me. Huh? Everyone, keep it up. The more we tarnish his name, the smaller our risk. Forget the breach penalty. We can even countersue him later and make him pay us. Another influencer. Kiko Z. You're working so hard. There were 11 people in the group, judging by their nicknames, all of whom had previously accused Ethan Vance, but Sky Blue was not among them. Looking at these chat logs, Isabel's eyes seemed to be laced with ice. I have 3 points. Arrange for them to be carried out, she said coldly. Ms. Jenkins. Yes, Ms. Thorne. First, issue an apology statement for tying up network, police, and other public resources. It must be sincere. Second, announce that the Influencer Hub will fully implement its new talent training program. The tone must be firm. Also, draft new benefit packages for influencers based on Elysian trainee standards, and simultaneously issue a statement on pursuing accountability against the head of the Influencer Hub for unauthorized use of the CEO's seal, unauthorized alteration of contract terms, and other actions detrimental to the company's interests. Release all of this together. Third, for every single one of these influencers who accused Mr. Vance, have the legal department send out formal notices. Based on the damage to the company's and Mr. Vance's reputation, emotional distress, and actual losses, prepare a list of compensation demands. Especially this Kiko Z. I don't care what methods you use. I want her and her entire family to spend the rest of their lives scraping together pennies to pay us back. Ms. Jenkins nodded repeatedly, thinking to herself that Ms. Thorne, the Iron Lady, was indeed fiercely protective of her own. Last time, she'd slapped Chloe Miller in front of everyone and fiercely said, "Touch my husband again, and I'll tear you apart." Now that her man had been so wrongly accused again, she must be heartbroken. Seeing Isabel's simmering anger, Benny, who was standing guard by the door, let out a silly chuckle. Isabel heard him and looked at the big oaf who'd been her shadow all morning. "Hungry?" she asked, her voice surprisingly gentle. Benny gulped, one hand on his stomach, and nodded. "Not hungry," when he couldn't help but laugh. "You nod and say you're not hungry. What exactly are you trying to say?" Benny scratched his head, grinning sheepishly. "If my sister-in-law is hungry, I'm hungry." Isabel took a breath and said to Wendy, "Order takeout for everyone. This big guy. Order 2 for him. I'll reimburse it later." Benny piped up, Can I get 3? Your takeout portions are small, and I didn't eat breakfast." A wave of laughter filled the office. Isabel's lips twitched upward slightly. "Call your brother," she said. "Ask him how he is." "Oh." Benny made the call, hanging up shortly after. "Sis, Ms. Thorne, my brother said he's busy with something right now." Isabel nodded, paused, then glanced towards the tech department, lost in thought for a moment. She walked over to Benny and said softly, "Don't call me sister-in-law at the company. Got it?" Benny, "Oh, got it, sis." Ms. Thorne, Isabel. Meanwhile, Ethan arrived at the abandoned building complex. After instructing his lawyer to keep everything confidential, he sent him back to the company and walked inside himself. Seeing him from afar, Leo Bishop and his men eagerly approached. "Mr. Vance, man, it's great to see you're okay. We were all worried sick." Ethan smiled, clapping Leo on the shoulder. "Thanks for this. How about this? Send me your bank account number. Let me show my appreciation. The guys can't work for free." Leo quickly protested. No, Mr. Vance, you're embarrassing me. Money doesn't come into it between us." "Listen to me," Ethan said, raising a hand to cut him off. "You guys head back first. I'll treat you to drinks another day. Remember to send me the account number. If it's inconvenient, I'll bring cash later." This. Leo looked troubled. "Mr. Vance, you don't need to be so formal with us. We can stay here and help you out." Ethan smiled faintly. "I appreciate the thought, but you should go back. Some things. It's best not to get too deeply involved. For your own good." With that, Leo couldn't press further. After a nod to Finn and Jax, he left with his men. "Boss," Jax said with a grin, leaning against the hood of the GTR. Finn was looking down at the unconscious Jean Tianliang by his feet. He prodded him twice with his boot. Seeing no reaction, he casually picked up the sledgehammer and brought it down on Jean Tianliang's ankle. Arg! A blood-curdling scream echoed through the empty, derelict structure, terrifying Maria and Ryan Asher to their core. "Not dead," Finn stated dryly. Ethan lit a cigarette and strolled over to Jean Tianliang. Looking at the man's face, contorted in agony, he smirked. "Well, do you understand the consequences now?" The blows to his chest earlier had likely damaged his internal organs. Blood kept seeping from Jean Tianliang's mouth, and his speech was broken and strained. "Mr. Vance, I was wrong. I know I was wrong." "That Mr. King," Ethan asked calmly, "what's your relationship with him?" "He's from my hometown, a distant relative. By generation, he's my uncle. It was all his idea. He told me he'd invest, help me start a media company, and have me poach these influencers." "Understood. So you're just a stupid dog. No wonder he ditched you so readily. It seems you don't know much." Jean Tianliang's eyes were wide with terror. "Yep. Let me go. Let me go to jail, I beg you." Ethan sneered. "Sky Blue's photos? In cloud storage. I'll tell you the account and password." Jax opened his laptop and logged into Jean Tianliang's cloud account, clicking his tongue. "Damn." Ethan took a drag from his cigarette. "Mr. Jean, it looks like you're no use to me anymore. You can go on ahead." Finn picked up the sledgehammer, his face impassive, and began dragging the relentlessly begging Jean Tianliang toward the other side of a wall. Ethan turned to the trembling Maria, his eyes dark. "How much did you extort from the Asher family?" Maria's face was deathly pale. "10 million. Mr. Vance, I was originally planning to hand over the evidence to the police once I got the money. You have to believe me." 10 million. Huh. Ethan gave a bitter laugh. "So that girl, your best friend, was only worth 10 million in your eyes." "Mr. Vance, I was blinded by greed, but I swear I really intended to give the evidence to the police. It doesn't matter anymore. I've never stooped to hitting women. Tonight, I'll arrange a boat for you. Go apologize to Chloe." "Huh, a boat?" Maria didn't understand what Ethan meant, but hearing "apologize to Chloe" didn't sound like anything good. She immediately started crying and begging for mercy. Ethan dropped his half-smoked cigarette to the ground, ignoring Maria's pleas. He turned towards Ryan Asher and ripped the tape from the mouth of the rich kid, who had long since wet himself in terror. Ryan seemed to have been waiting for this moment. The instant the tape was off, he blurted out, "Mr. Vance, I'll tell you everything. Chloe's death, it was really an accident. I originally went to see her to try and steal her divorce certificate. Then I wanted to see if I could convince her to help me take you down. Unexpectedly, she not only disagreed, but she also kicked me out. Later, she even said she wanted to have a drink with me to part on good terms. When I heard what she said to her agent, I really couldn't control my emotions. But I didn't do it on purpose. It was an accident. I wanted to pull her up. It was her who let go. Later, I was terrified, so I called Mr. King. He taught me how to handle the scene and even concocted a story for me, telling me to proactively call the police and pin the blame on you. I told him Chloe was on a video call with her agent at the time. He said he would take care of it. And then I received that blackmail call from the agent." Ethan's eyes were cold, fixed on Ryan, saying nothing. Sometimes the truth of the matter isn't actually important. In the end, a dead person is after all dead. To this day, Ethan had never hated Chloe. Love, when it's one-sided, means you have to be prepared to get hurt. How can it be a right or wrong? What you lose on the swings, you gain on the roundabouts. Your hands are only so big. The handful you can scoop up in a lifetime is what truly belongs to you. The regrets that slip through your fingers might be worth remembering, but they're certainly not worth resenting. Letting go is just a matter of a single thought. It's just that, thinking of those short yet long 2 years, thinking of that person forever etched into that cold, dark night, a wave of melancholy was unavoidable. Ryan was petrified by Ethan's stare, his forehead covered in a dense layer of cold sweat, his body trembling uncontrollably. It was Mr. King. He was behind all of this. He instigated me to provoke you. His goal was to get my father involved, to deal with your father together. Ethan flicked his eyelids up, still silent. Ryan spilled everything, holding nothing back. His target was your father from the beginning. The reason he pulled my father in was because of my father's connections with the Oversight Committee and and your Vance family's second branch. All the criminal evidence against your father, it was all provided by the Vance second branch. I heard my father say, Mr. King seems to have very powerful people backing him, but he doesn't know who specifically. Mr. Vance, why don't you go arrest Mr. King and ask him? I don't know anything else. Please let me go, whatever conditions you have. I'll try my best to meet them. My father will definitely reward you. I beg you. Ethan said nothing, taking out his phone to call Milo. After a long pause, Milo finally answered. Milo, find out where Victor Vance is being held. And also, that guy surnamed King, where is he now? Boss, I'm sorry. I was spotted by his bodyguards. I lost him. Though Milo tried his best to control it, Ethan could easily hear the tremor in his breathing and his voice. In an instant, Ethan's grip on the phone tightened. Where are you hurt? It's nothing, not serious. Where are you hurt? It was clear Ethan was extremely worried about his subordinate. His voice unintentionally grew heavier. Nearby, Jack stiffened, put down his laptop, and strode to Ethan's side, a worried look on his face. Finn also circled around from the other side of the wall, staring intently at Ethan. Shoulder, gunshot, send your location. No, we shouldn't meet. I can handle it myself. Ethan cut him off directly. No doctor in this country will treat a gunshot wound off the books. Send me your location. I have connections, don't worry. Boss, that Mr. King, his bodyguards are not ordinary. I have to hang up now. Shots were fired here. I'm worried the police will come. Hearing Milo speak so casually, Ethan's heart felt like it was bleeding. But on the other hand, it also confirmed that Mr. King was indeed no ordinary person. After some deliberation, Ethan decided to deal with the matter at hand first. As for Mr. King, if he was playing this big, would he be hard to find? Thinking this, Ethan took a deep breath and looked at Ryan Asher, who immediately started kowtowing, begging for mercy. Mr. Vance, please let me go, I'm begging you. I really know I was wrong. Please give me one more chance. Ethan took off his suit jacket, gestured to Finn, then took the sledgehammer from Finn's hand. He looked at Ryan. How could you not die, Ryan? Heh, let's play a game. Remember, King? Take away a piece. What does it become? Dirt. Time for you to become dirt. As Ethan stepped out of the elevator, he saw a large figure sitting in the hallway. Boss. Benny scrambled to his feet, grinning. Ethan frowned. You know the code to my apartment, Benny. Why are you sitting out here? Aren't you freezing? Benny scratched his head, sidling up to Ethan and lowering his voice. Jack said Milo got shot. I was worried about, Ms. Thorne being in danger. Just then, Isabel Thorne's apartment door swung open. The Ice Queen herself stood there, impeccably dressed, her gaze towards Ethan slightly uncomfortable. She explained, I told him to come in. He insisted on sitting by the door. Ethan gave a faint smile and patted Benny's arm. Go to my place first. Oh, Benny acknowledged, gave Isabel a nod, and then went into Ethan's apartment. Ethan took a deep breath, looking utterly exhausted. He leaned against the wall, habitually reaching for his cigarette case and placing one on his lips. Just as he pulled out his lighter, Isabel strode forward and unceremoniously snatched the cigarette away. She then jabbed her chin towards the no smoking sign on the wall. Can't you read? Ethan, resigned, put the lighter back in his pocket. After a pause, he offered a roguish grin. Up so late, all dressed up, waiting for me. Isabel shot him a glare. Dealing with company matters. All right. Ethan's eyelids drooped as if he might fall asleep any second. He was clearly not in the mood for banter. He leaned his head back against the wall, looking at Isabel with a faint smile. She stood with her arms crossed, her gaze slightly unfocused. They stood in silence for a long time before Isabel finally spoke. Are you okay? What could happen? Ethan chuckled. It's not like I haven't been to the precinct before. Isabel murmured, falling silent again. In truth, that wasn't what she meant. She was asking about Chloe. This playboy must be feeling terrible right now. Izzy, Ethan said suddenly. Remember what I told you this morning? Isabel gave him a questioning look. When I get out, let's have dinner. Isabel hesitated for a moment. Okay, some other day. When is some other day? When I'm done with work these next 2 days. And when will that be? Isabel. Ethan continued. How about I give you tomorrow off? Isabel pursed her lips. The weekend. Deal. Ethan raised his right arm, making a fist bump gesture. Isabel, what? It's a habit I picked up abroad, Ethan said with a smile. When we reach an agreement, we fist bump. Or, according to our Chinese customs, a handshake. No need, Isabel replied, curtly. But seeing Ethan still holding out his fist, as if he wouldn't give up until he got his way, she lightly bumped it. Ethan's tone was lazy. Looks like you don't really like foreign customs. Let's shake hands then. Isabel took a breath. Suddenly, she remembered her friend Dr. Zoe Russell mentioning that when Ethan came for therapy, he had asked about her symptoms. The beautiful CEO's expression gradually became complex. She didn't dare meet Ethan's eyes. Biting her lip and looking down, she slowly extended her hand. Ethan gently took her fingertips, shaking her hand up and down quite naturally for about 3 seconds. When he sensed she wanted to pull her hand back, he released it lightly. Throughout, he hadn't acted deliberately. It was just a simple handshake. But Isabel saw through this carefully constructed facade, and her emotions began to shift subtly. Gratitude? Awkwardness? Or perhaps a sense of shared suffering? Of empathy? Whatever the reason, Isabel inexplicably wanted to ask, "Your psychological issues, what exactly happened? And why were you abused?" But the words died in her throat. Instead, she said, "You look very tired. Go get some rest." As she said this, Isabel could already guess he was about to make a snarky comment like, "Worried about me?" However, Ethan just nodded, wished her good night, and walked heavily towards his own apartment. Before closing the door, he added, "Izzy, lock your door." Isabel murmured a soft, "Okay," then turned and went back into her apartment. Closing the door, she leaned her back against it, her mind replaying the handshake. In that moment, Ethan's gaze had been so gentle. For this fake couple, tonight was a rare, peaceful encounter. No bickering, no unhappiness. On the contrary, it felt a little warm. On the other side, Ethan also stood behind his door, forehead pressed against the panel, a smile playing on his lips. 3 seconds, he muttered. Before long, a distinctly unharmonious burp echoed from the living room, followed by Benny's muffled voice, his mouth clearly full of food. "Boss, you dizzy or something?" "Ethan." He turned to see the oaf sitting on the sofa, a can of craft beer in his left hand and a rolled-up steak in his right. Truly, wine and meat pass through the intestines, but the Buddha remains in the heart. If you don't like using a knife and fork, at least grab some chopsticks. Isn't that hot to hold? Benny grinned sheepishly. This meat's real chewy. Chopsticks wouldn't work. Ethan sighed. "Eat up. There's plenty in the fridge." "Oh, right. You have the bank card, don't you? Find some time to buy Finn a car. Something convenient." Benny took a swig of beer, then grimaced. Ordered him a Raptor. He said it's good for hauling stuff. At this, Benny couldn't help but shiver. "Boss, that guy. He's got too dark of a vibe. The day we went to look at cars, the salesman at the dealership had a bad attitude. I saw Finn, he just grabbed the cross around his neck. Man, he only does that when he's about to kill someone. You got to keep an eye on him, or he's going to cause real trouble." Ethan smiled. He knows his limits. He won't act recklessly. Just as he finished speaking, Jax called. "Boss, that Mr. King seems to have vanished. Can't find him anywhere." Ethan thought for a moment. "No rush. Keep an eye on the Asher family for now. If they still want to get a Victor, they'll definitely contact him again." "Okay, boss, when we do find him, you better leave him to me. He shot Milo. I owe him a full magazine." Hanging up, Ethan thought about Victor Vance, held by the Oversight Committee, a mix of emotions churning within him. But he wasn't overly worried. According to Ryan Asher, it was the Ashers and the Vance second branch colluding to take Victor down. But Victor Vance was no fool. If the second branch was collecting criminal evidence against him, could he really have been unaware? It seemed impossible. After a moment of reflection, Ethan let out a breath and called Milo. "Boss, I was just about to call you. I found out your dad is at a federal detention center." Hearing the pain Milo was trying to suppress in his voice, Ethan's expression turned grim. "Emmett, Milo, you get some rest. Don't worry about anything else. There are only 5 of us left. We can't afford to lose anyone else." During this time, the influencers who had framed Ethan Vance were truly miserable. Besides being subjected to online bullying and police summons, they also lived in constant fear of the legal notices from Elysian Media, which demanded compensation amounts that were both legally sound and exorbitantly high. Hiko Z, whose account boasted 10 million followers, was banned. Over the past 2 days, she had switched between several alt accounts, endlessly posting apology videos and playing the victim, claiming her depression had worsened. Her address had been leaked, and she was being harassed. But netizens weren't buying it anymore. They were more inclined to find her and spit in her face. As for Sky Blue, opinions were mixed. But early this morning, some of her photos still found their way onto the internet. Undoubtedly, Ethan was behind it. It was a small lesson, but more importantly, it created the illusion for Eva Vance that Jean Tianliang was still alive. Otherwise, with Ryan Asher, Chloe's agent Maria, and Jean Tianliang all mysteriously missing, his sister would definitely be hounding him. Mr. King was still nowhere to be found. as if he had evaporated into thin air. He hadn't contacted the Asher family either. Preston Asher, meanwhile, spent every day searching for his son. Although he suspected Theodore Vance had taken Ryan, the Vance second branch firmly and unequivocally told him that the old man wasn't even thinking about Ethan. He was entirely focused on finding a solution for Victor Vance. This left Preston Asher deeply troubled. If his prime suspect hadn't done it, could it be Ethan? How could that playboy possibly have the means to make a living person disappear without a trace? Besides, if the Vance family was truly retaliating against the Ashers, why only target Ryan and not him? The more Preston Asher thought about it, the more confused he became. He even wondered if Mr. King had taken Ryan to threaten him into doing something. But when he tried to contact Mr. King, the phone number was disconnected. Had Mr. King messed everything up and then skipped town? In reality, Mr. King, whom Preston Asher and Ethan Vance were desperately searching for, was still in Port Sterling, just hidden in a very secret place. It was noon. Mr. King had just finished lunch when there was a sudden knock on his room door. A woman's voice came from outside. "Open up." Hearing this familiar voice, Mr. King instantly became excited and rushed to open the door. Creak! The door opened. Standing outside was a woman with an alluring figure and a captivating face. Her exact age was hard to tell. She looked to be in her late 30s, but if she was well-maintained, she could even be in her 40s. "So, you're finally here." Mr. King, infatuated, stared at the woman with adoring eyes for a long moment, then bowed slightly. "Come in quickly." The woman, Serafina, curled her lips slightly, but showed no intention of entering. "Mr. King," she said, "you've disappointed me this time." The smile on Mr. King's face vanished instantly. He lowered his head in guilt. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I messed it up. I don't know whose people were sabotaging our plan." The woman sighed. "Ultimately, it comes down to you not being capable enough." Mr. King swallowed hard, looking very much like a devoted simp. "Sarah, I made you angry again. I'm so sorry. But Victor Vance is finished this time. With all that evidence, he's looking at least." Before he could finish, the woman cut him off. "Wake up. Victor Vance will be out before midnight tonight." "What?" Mr. King was flabbergasted, his face a mask of disbelief. How is that possible? All that evidence was gathered by his own sister over many years. From what I understand, he made preparations long ago, found a scapegoat. This time, not only will he be able to clear his name, but he can also turn the tables on his sister. As she spoke, the woman sighed again. "Yeah, truly Victor Vance." Mr. King's brow furrowed into a knot, a strange expression of jealousy and resentment appearing on his face. He clenched his fist and slammed it against the door, gritting his teeth. "Sarah, give me one more chance. I will definitely destroy him." The woman gave a seductive smile. Her jade-like hand gently touched Mr. King's face, her tone full of allure. "Mr. King, you always said you were willing to do anything for me, even sacrifice your life. Is that true?" Mr. King nodded without hesitation. "My devotion to you is as clear as day and night." The woman took a step forward, her body leaning against Mr. King, her mouth close to his ear, her breath like orchids. "Mr. King, you're so good, he. Then, do me a favor. Keep this secret safe." 10 o'clock that night. Ethan was sitting on the sofa, reading when Milo suddenly called. "Boss, I just got news. That Mr. King is dead." Ethan shot upright. "What?" "Milo. He jumped off a building an hour ago. His body is at the detective squad now." Ethan's expression turned grave. This news was completely unexpected. After all the effort to take down Victor Vance, he just abruptly meets his end like this? It seemed Mr. King was just a pawn. There was a mastermind behind him, but there was no reason to discard this pawn now. As he was wondering, Victor Vance suddenly called. Ethan was startled and quickly answered. "You're out. Son, did you miss your dad?" Victor Vance sounded relaxed and pleased on the other end. Ethan was in no mood for jokes. "When did you get out?" He just got out." Victor chuckled. "I'll send you a location. Come over now." Ethan was suspicious. "Are you going to make a move on the second branch?" No. Why bother with her?" So, you also know she was behind it?" Let her be. She'll be useful later. Besides, your grandfather will protect her." "It's meaningless." Ethan said nothing more and directly hung up the phone. A terrifying guess immediately surfaced in his mind. Mr. King's backer must have known in advance that Victor Vance would be fine. Fearing Victor would trace things back to Mr. King, they killed him to silence him. Who on earth was behind him? How could their intelligence be so effective? This was clearly not someone to be underestimated. He needed to discuss this with Victor Vance in person. However, there was one more thing that needed to be done urgently. Since the fish he was trying to catch was dead, then Preston Asher, the bait, was no longer useful. In the Asher family mansion, Eleanor Asher was rushing up and down the stairs, packing things. It looked like she was preparing to flee. The driver, Derek, stood guard outside the main gate, warily scanning left and right. Preston Asher looked panicked. He was pacing back and forth in the living room, on the phone with the matriarch of the Vance second branch, clearly already aware that Victor Vance had been cleared of all charges. As the saying goes, when disaster strikes, everyone flies their own way. The second branch matriarch had no time for him now. The two were angrily yelling at each other over the phone, trading accusations, when suddenly, the call was disconnected. Preston Asher initially thought the old widow had hung up on him, but when he looked at his phone screen, he found, bizarrely, that there was no signal. It wasn't just his phone. The TV in the living room had no internet connection either. Preston Asher immediately sensed something was wrong. He could faintly hear a whirring sound. Looking out the window, he saw a small drone hovering in midair, a red light blinking on its fuselage. "Derek, what's going on with that drone?" Preston Asher yelled for his driver. The next second, he saw an expressionless man walk calmly into the room, carrying a briefcase in one hand and dragging the already lifeless driver with the other, dumping him on the floor. Eleanor Asher, terrified, collapsed onto the stairs, screaming incessantly. Preston Asher instinctively backed away a few steps, trembling. Who are you?" Finn unhurriedly opened the briefcase, took out a roll of plastic sheeting, and spread it out on the center of the living room floor. He stated, his face devoid of emotion, "How dare you touch the Vance family? My boss said he actually gave you a chance. You people just pushed it too far." Pointing to the bedsheet-sized plastic on the floor, Finn said calmly, "Come over. Lie down on it yourself."